Hello gamers! You might be wondering why this video is on my second channel and not the main channel. Well, that is because this is not the final analysis. I want to try something a little different because I more or less burned myself out making the analysis for the last trailer, so I am doing things two ways. First, I'm going to make the actual analysis video a lot more structured and tighter edited than I did for the previous ones, and I am also going to wait a little longer on that because it's going to take more time to do. So, to have something out on the first day, and to also cater to people who like long, unfiltered Yap sessions, I am more or less recording all of my first run-through of the trailer and initial analysis. So I've watched it before, and I've watched a few other people's reactions to it, but I haven't really deeply looked into it myself already. So, you're just getting that completely unfiltered, completely unedited. So I have the trailer, I have the Japanese website and all that. So that's going to be fine. But don't expect this to be structured. Expect a lot of empty space here while I think of things. Expect a lot of ums and ahs. I'm not going to cut any of that out. This is just a raw OBS file that's going put straight on the second channel. So just fair warning with that. But also, if you don't mind that kind of thing happening, please subscribe to this channel because I would like to get this channel monetized. Especially given the fact that a new multiplayer Xenoblade game is coming out soon, I'm going to be incentivized to stream again. So, you know, I'd like a VOD channel that can make me money as well as the actual stream stuff itself. Would be great if they waited an extra day for this, because I literally have a desk clamp coming in the mail tomorrow that will allow me to mount ring lights and actually get use out of my webcam and green screen. So that would have been funny. Probably not doing like a reaction or anything to the Pokemon Presents unless I completely avoid all information from it until I get around to being able to record for it. But yeah, that aside, I think we can start watching this. Now keep in mind, this video is going to be much longer than the final analysis is. That one is going to have more information and be much more concise, but it is definitely going to be shorter than this because I can do things like record lines multiple times to make sure they sound good and cut out times where I'm just sitting there thinking of what to say or that kind of thing. Also, it's going to be structured properly, so when a character shows up, I'm just going to talk all about that character at once and that kind of thing. Don't expect a longer video for the analysis. That's going to be a better video. But yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that. More or less, this is going to be longer, but this is also a rough draft and like pseudo scripting session as we go. I am going to be skipping over a lot of this because ultimately what this trailer is a 6.5-minute Nintendo Direct segment that was uploaded on its own as opposed to being a segment of a Direct, which means a lot of the trailer is just vague general story stuff trying to hype people up based on the story of the game, and then also tutorializing how to play the game in very broad strokes, which is not really super relevant for my channel and my viewer base because a lot of people have played the original X and a lot more people care more about the story and lore. But if I see something, I'm going to say something. There are going to be times where I go frame by frame through this, so just keep that in mind. Also, this is not structured, so I am going to be doing spoilers for Xenoblade 1, 2, 3, their expansions, and the original Xenoblade X. This video is not safe for you if you have not played the original X. However, the final analysis will be at least until I get around to talking about spoiler material, so you can still watch that one even if you have to stop here. Anyway, now we can begin. See, my intros are always long, but this one took 4 entire minutes, which is way longer than it would be if this was a proper video. We open up with, again, just the opening scenes of the game. The beginning of everything where Elma takes you out of the pot. And like, again, a lot of scenes are just going to be story cutscenes, but they look prettier because it's definitive edition. And that is completely fine. This is largely also aimed at people who never played the original. So repeating things they did, in trailers for the original is a completely normal and good thing to do. It just leaves me with not too much to talk about here. Interestingly, they omit the section where Elma enters her password, and the amount of characters in the password is the same as "you shall be as gods," which is something people have theorized was her password for a very long time because Xenosaga. Also, just like, I'm not going to be able to pull it out here because we're doing this entire thing effectively live, but just comparing the polygons on the hand here to this exact same shot in the original game is going to be crazy. Just the amount of stuff they've outright improved.
Looks like you're
Like,
all
as far as lighting goes, I believe I mentioned this in the last trailer as well, but Elma's eyes look so much more luminescent in a somewhat uncanny but also very good way.
Remember your own name?
All right, so then we've got the character screen. I do not remember how many base faces there are in this game. So for people who don't remember or don't care about spoilers, in the original X, you didn't... Oh, yeah, it's on the same. You did not just completely select your character. You could start from a base face, and then you'd have different options based on those faces. So, like, I don't remember exactly what it was called. Like, some of them were like young man A, B, C, older man A, B, C, D, or whatever. I think there are more presets here, and there are different, like, distribution of them. Like, I don't remember there being 5 older ones in the original. I do remember this guy. That guy I distinctly remember. But, yeah, I think some of these are just showing off new features. I don't really recall that hairstyle or the very, like, Mobius-looking colors for that hair. But either way, certain features, like certain versions of facial hair, or I believe some scars and certain hairstyles are locked to certain base faces, but I believe, like, all the young man, adult man, etc. does have all the same stuff. And if you look down here, there's a save and load avatar data option. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, comments. A lot of people were saying when stuff like this was first shown off in the preview material, outside of the trails, which I did not make any content on, that's fine. If you want to learn about that stuff more in depth, feel free to look at other people's content for that. I wholeheartedly encourage that. There are many other good creators covering this game. Anyway, a lot of people were saying that that was a brand new feature. If I remember correctly, that was not a new feature. You could have up to, I believe, 5 pre-saved appearances for your character, but since you only had 1 save file per profile on the Wii U, the only way you could save and load an appearance was doing the side quest that lets you change your appearance midway through the game. So, like, there's a side quest you can do that unlocks a machine in NLA that lets you completely change your character appearance, and you can re-edit your character from scratch and all that. And that was where you could save and load appearances. Here, you can do it now in what appears to be just the default base character creator at the beginning of the game, which is interesting because my guess would be your saved character appearances carry over in between save files on the same Switch profile, because, as has also been shown in previews, we are now up to the exact same system Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition had, which is 3 save files and 1 autosave slot. So I'm guessing you can carry those over between there, and it was already confirmed that because you can now adjust the voice language from Japanese to English at will, just in the settings, you can also change your character's voice actor at will across the 7 English or 10 Japanese options. So there might be more character customization options that you can do at will without having to do that side quest, which is very neat.
Rescued
Now,
from your stasis.
going in here beyond that, there's not a huge amount of stuff to see. Like, we got Shulk Definitive Edition. We got, I think that's supposed to be Ryan, which is interesting because Ryan Xenoblade uses the default hairstyle, not actual Ryan. And then this, is that Mikhail? Or was that something in the original game? Comments, go crazy. Farm YouTube comment likes off of correcting me on everything here. I don't mind. I wholeheartedly encourage it. Anyway, Tyon is an option. Does not appear to be one for this face, unless that's it, which I don't think it is. Anyway, you can do different colors. There's a special toggle for certain things on this hairstyle. That's the Ahoge that default male cross had in the Wii U version. And all of these tabs are the same as the Wii U. However, there are more options in all of them, so you can't really complain. It's just the same thing, but more.
You are one of the few.
Yeah, and then going in here, you can see, just Mithra and Nia are available for this face. Pyra is not here unless Pyra is a sub option underneath Mithra. But, in addition to Nia, Mio's is also an option for certain faces, but not for this one.
Surviving members of.
It might also be possible that certain presets, like, again, if we go back, there are 3 to 4 presets using, like, the same base face here, and then another 4 using this one with different modifications, and then more after that. It's possible that each of these will also come with unique hairstyles and that to go with, where where like, okay, yeah, you could get that birthmark on any of them. You can get that scar on any of them, but selecting this one will get you a certain subset of hairstyles. That one will get a different one, and so forth. Because if you look here, this hairstyle's not available for the male character there. At all, even though the same base face, or no, it's there. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they do.
You are one of the
I have a feeling there are going to be more options than it looks like, just based on this, because already this is a deceptively small looking amount of options, and who knows how much more we'll unlock later.
few surviving members of humanity.
Surprisingly good looking freckles, which I'm always a fan of. And there's the Ahage option. And there's all of the eye options. I believe that is the same number of eye options as in the original. However, some of them look a little bit changed around. Default eyes look slightly less mechanical, which is interesting just because of the mimeosome thing about the original Xenoblade X. But some of the other options have been changed to look a bit more like robot cameras now, which is cool. I'll be very interested in seeing if they either confirm, deny, or completely ignore the theory that when Lao comes back, he's in his original flesh and blood body and not a new mimeosome, because his eyes appear to still be mim cameras, or at least the same as his mim form eyes in the other trailers. But maybe they'll change that because it's closer to release than any of the other builds, or he's just another mimeosome regardless. And then if you look at face options, off the top of my head, all of these ones up here were in the original game. These look like Zell from Final Fantasy VIII, but I do not think that's supposed to be a reference to that. It's just a similar face marking. This one here looks new. This one is very, very Zanza-esque, so I think that one's new, because there were very few actual references to the original Xenoblade in the original X, and they added a lot more. This one, like, kind of based on the color of the X logo, I believe is new, and this one with the Monado red, I think, is new. Again, I don't remember off the top of my head all these. I can't easily look it up. There's this one with the stickers that I think... I don't know. I can't tell what the yellow thing is. I believe the text just says Blade there. And then if we scroll down, we can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 rows are only half of it. So there's another 6 options, or 6 sets of options. Back to cutscene. Everything looks so shiny. I'm a fan of that.
A casualty of an intergalactic war between alien races.
And then here's the opening cutscene. I'll talk about it a bit more in the full video, but some news outlet whose footage I will use in credit, I don't recall which immediately off the top of my head, did post the entire or at least part of the opening cutscene as part of their preview, and it was identical to the original game in a kind of interesting way after seeing stuff in this trailer. As in, they didn't change any designs of anything, and all of the events are the same, which is something I expected. Now, there are going to be massive changes in the story in X Definitive Edition, because we've seen a lot of new stuff. There's some new stuff even in the base game, but, as I said, Xenoblade 1 DE didn't change that much to fit it into the rest of the games, because, I mean, 2 did most of the heavy lifting on that front. All they really changed was Alphys's design, and people were thinking, oh, they'll update the Birth of a Universe cutscene to resemble the one it as depicted in Klaus's memories in Xenoblade 2. And they didn't do that. All of the other stuff besides exactly Alphys's design was stuff in brand new content to DE. They didn't change any old stuff. So, while it doesn't appear to be changed in any way, we have to remember that even if they do connect it to the other games, even if they do connect it to Xenosaga, which we'll get there, trust me, visually speaking, most cutscenes that were in the original game are going to be identical to how they were in the original game, barring upgrading the visuals to match with the rest of DE. So this opening cutscene is going to be the exact same, even if stuff later in the game ends up revealing that it is different in such a way that it connects to another game, or that things are just not what they appear to begin with. That is just one thing you have to remember.
In search of a new home, The remnants of humanity crash land
Crashing
on
in
a
Mira.
mysterious planet known
I believe this entire scene used the sepia tones, so this isn't from the original cutscene. This is from the Blade explanation later on in the game when you meet Nagi, so I think as part of like chapter 2 or something like that. And I don't know why they chose that except for stylistic reasons. It literally doesn't matter, it's just the same scene with a filter on it.
The remnants of humanity crash land on a mysterious planet known
Alright, then
as
we get
Mira.
the big intro to Mira scene, which you've seen how much I use it in every video where I mention Xenoblade X. It's not just because it's a really, really easy one to find, and like it's at the, because I use my old Let's Play as B-roll footage for X, and obviously I can just go grab episode 1 and not have to look through to find which specific episode I did a specific story chapter or saw a specific affinity cutscene. So if I need just generic X footage, I could just always use this because I know exactly where to find it. This is also just one of the best cutscenes in the entire series, and I cannot wait to see that on the Switch. Yeah, first 1080p Monolith game, which is kind of interesting. Like, I don't remember, was Smash Wii U 1080p? Because I know they worked on that. And don't think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom ever hit that. Either way, game pretty. Game gonna be even prettier on Switch 2. And then,
This sprawling, untamed
here's
alien world.
where I'm not gonna have a lot to talk about, really, because like they're just showing off Mira, and watching the trailer will do a better job at selling you on how amazing an open world this is than anything I can say verbally, because look at it.
World is home to
I do love how you can tell when certain shots were taken story-wise, because Tatsu's here this time. Tatsu does
biomes. This sprawling,
not appear to be
untamed
present in the
alien
Primordia
world
shot, which is
home
kind of
to
funny. And then they could be using DevCam, but I believe that you could just turn the entire UI off while not targeting anything in the original as well. And we've seen in previews that there are significantly more options in DE. So this is probably a panning shot from a cutscene or from the title screen, but all the shots running around are probably replicable in-game because you can just turn everything off. We're finally showing
biomes.
they took this long to show off like more extremely cool looking stuff. Like Noctilum at night wasn't shown off that much. The gorgeous sandstorms through the lightning in Oblivia, they didn't show that off. It was only like sunny before. And then this is the first time we have seen Sylvalum Night in Definitive Edition, and I might be either trying to unlock Alexa or just straight booking it to Sylvalum as early as I can when I start playing DE. Just because I want to see that. Can you blame me for wanting to see that? Like, you could change the time at will now. So I don't even need to find a blade camp. I can just walk into Sylvalum, try to make it this far, see if I can get to the Delusion Summit before getting one shot by literally everything in the world.
Inhabited by ferocious wildlife of all sizes.
That's the intro to Mira cutscene. That Noctilum shot, I know as a fact, is from the title screen. I remember that very specifically. This Noctilum shot, I don't recognize. This kind of has to be Noctilum because they don't show off the new area until the actual like quote unquote spoiler part of the trailer. So there's that monkey. And we got Primordia, we got Saniculas, we got Thuids, we got Milesaurs, we got the guys. The guys are all back. The boys are back in town, except they're explicitly not in town because town is NLA and they're outside of town. Anyway, speaking of the Delusions, speaking of Dune, I don't remember. I know they are Dune references. I've not watched the movies or read the books. But from cultural osmosis of the movies being out and being popular, I vaguely understand the references to the names now. I don't remember. Is it Atreides the first one and Gesserit the one that gets summoned, or is it the other way around? I could be looking this up, but it's way funner to just speculate. Anyway, Gularth. There are big guys that are even bigger than the giant robots you can get, and that's cool.
With Earth lost.
And here, it was all shown in previews, but we can see some more of the improved UI here. Follow ball, show destination, which is I believe on the minimap, show navigation, which I think is just the arrow, then I don't know if I like the R target prompt there. If I can turn just that off but leave the level indicators, I think that's how I would prefer doing this. Like, at least for my first playthrough, I'm not going to go... It's been a while since I've like actively played through X, so I don't remember everything very well. I'm probably going to leave most of the UI on for that, just to get back into the swing of things. But once I hit endgame, or if I have to do a second playthrough eventually, or sooner rather than later, I'm going to probably turn as much off as possible for the full immersive experience.
The remaining survivors must establish a new...
And that's the new follow ball. So, new version of follow ball works closer to the Xenoblade 3 floor path system. So, the idea of an active quest tracker originated in the original X and was only improved on in 3. The issue with the follow ball was it saw a path and just booked it down that path at the same speed no matter how you were going. So if you wanted to actually follow it properly, you'd need to keep pressing R and X multiple times to send out multiple balls, and that kind of got annoying. In this case, it looks like it will come out and go ahead of you, but it will pathfind better, so it doesn't try to make you jump impossible cliffs or go ways you could only go by jumping with a skell on foot, but it will also linger around ahead for you, which is
a new home on Mira.
Then here we can see there's a big hexagon on the minimap, and I believe that is an indicator that you can... It might be just for a quest thing, but as we can see here,
to ensure humanity,
they install the data probe, and then that disappears. So I believe that what you can do is you can highlight individual segments on the minimap, and that, or on the proper mirror map, and then going to the minimap, when you're within that segment or around that segment, it will glow like that. So in addition to highlighting quest objectives, you can also highlight map segments. That's kind of neat. I don't know how necessary that will be, but more features is usually better than less features.
On Mira to ensure humanity's survival.
Yeah, we also learned from previews that field skill levels are mostly non-existent, so you start out at the equivalent of skill level 4 immediately. Interestingly, though, they do jump cut from 30 to 93 here, just to speed up the process. So it seems like things will still take a really long time, or not a really long time. Like you're not put at sight or at field skill mashing speed that you would be from level 4, even though you are effectively level 4 in terms of things you can open. And this new map just... words cannot describe how clean specifically this new map looks. And just the fact that you can see the other continents right there is such a massive change and makes the entire world feel... It's weird. Usually you'd think having everything connected would have a small world feeling, but like you could see this many segments in Primordia that need to be done, and then look over and see, oh wait, there's the beginning of Oblivia. There's so many more. Oh wait, there's the beginning of Noxilum. There's so many more. Also though... Okay, no, that is North Primordia. I wasn't sure about it because it was behind the ribbon there. For a second I was like, wait a minute. Did the archipelago in between Primordia and Sylvalum get applied to Sylvalum? But no, that's just north. That's the actual north bit of Primordia. Actually, wait, is it? I don't know. They might have added some new segments here. Because I'm just going to go to frontiernav.net on my phone. Who could have guessed Xenoblade Chronicles X is trending? Okay, no. Yeah, those islands are segments in the original game. There is an archipelago that's not part of either continent. So, neat. And then I keep going back. I'm sorry. I love these icons so much better. Like, that's a normal mission icon. That's a probe icon. That's a tyrant icon. That's a treasure icon. And that's an affinity mission icon. They're so much clearer than they were. I'm a little iffy. I don't know how I feel about the new skip travel icon being that simple, but it is still way more readable than it was in the original game, which I can't complain about.
Welcome to New Los
it's
Angeles.
in LA. That's
City built
crazy.
from the remains of the
They
ship
still have the United
and
States in the
your base
future.
of operations.
Army pizza.
The city is divided into
Construction scale.
districts, including commercial,
I can't read what that store is
industrial,
here.
and
Okay, that's
residential. It's also home to all kinds of people.
Like, this is all stuff from the original game, but it's neat how they're showing off just like NPC interactions in the backyards of houses in the residential districts. Like, stuff that's always been there, but you might not have thought to look at before. Like, yeah, did you know there's people just wearing casual clothes, hanging out on the tennis court? That's also a basketball court, apparently. Don't know if I ever really realized that. I guess you could play half-court basketball on just this one part of the tent. Like, just use the back of the half-court is the tennis net. I don't know.
Here, you can
Anyway, though, it was mentioned in some previews that the cars and skells in NLA have collision now, which is good for immersion, but there was actually a lore reason for why the cars on the roads didn't have collision in the original. And they still fixed it for immersion purposes, even though they had an explanation, which I think is neat. They're willing to compromise their original story concepts for the purpose of things making more sense to the average player, which I think is a good thing to do. Like, even as a lore guy, I think it's good to make the most possible amount of people understand what you're going for, even if it's at a slight expense of specific big story implications or the like. But that might just be me. Then another neat thing here, besides the icons being so much better, is if you look at Vera here, there is a division icon right there. So people who count as specific divisions, they're very, very heavily signposted what division they're a member of, even though it's largely just an RP thing, your division in Definitive Edition, which I don't mind. Like, I don't know how I feel about blade levels getting removed completely. I understand that they're just putting it into overall survey rate, which is good for encouraging explanation. I think I am more bothered about the removal of field skills as opposed to any of the blade level stuff, because when it came to blade level, there were just correct division decisions. So if you didn't choose one of the best couple divisions, even though you joined the one you wanted to, then you just were SOL if you wanted to actually level up blade level without grinding. So I get why they got rid of that. I don't know how I feel about field skill just being completely unlocked, because I like the idea of finding something you can't open immediately and having to go back to it once you've grown and unlocked new skills as a character, especially because the mapping system in XD is so much better, and we have better waymarks and being able to put pins in the map that weren't there in the Wii U version. So I feel like it would be okay to keep field skills in this version, but I understand why they got rid of them all the same. And we can see the segment highlight for NLA, because NLA segments are so much smaller than outside segments.
You can obtain protective gear and powerful weapons.
And here, this has been shown off a lot in previews. This is just the new, equipment UI, and this is the shop UI. But this is how equipment stuff is shown off, and just thicker letters in the font goes a long way. Even though there's still a huge amount of information on the screen this time, it's still much more readable. Like, do you understand why I only use bold text in all of my thumbnails? Because you can read it zoomed out from a distance, and it's eye-catching. They do that here, and now you can see everything fine, even if your Switch is in handheld mode.
Weapons
But
aid
most
your
interestingly,
exploration.
got the Super Civ Scholastics, which is the equipment, or the outfit that we see. And you can see here the icons. This appears to be female exclusive and covers everything except the head. Super Civ is a Clorian thing, because Celica's outfit, which you could get for other version of for other female characters in the original game, is, I believe, the Super Civilization attire or something along those lines. So Neil is also a Clorian, and so her outfit is the Super Civ Scholastics, because we'll learn more about her later. And this is 1 through 4, level 20 equipment. So I am guessing that you can first off, we will see Neil is almost certainly a party member. Or no, she is basically confirmed to be a party member now, which is neat. A brand new base game party member that has nothing to do with the new story in DE. It's very cool. But the fact that this is level 20 gear suggests that Kneel Nail will be available pretty early, like possibly earlier than you get a Skell, which is very interesting. And then you got 1 through 4. So this has
Exploration.
15 beam res and 30 ether res. I'm guessing, since the other ones are the exact same price, that these are all level 20, and the other ones have 15 in a different resistance and 30 in a different resistance than these. So like there's 4 of them. So maybe there's a thermal, an electric, and a gravity one, and everything gets 15 beam or something like that. And here we can see a bit more indication of the rarity system, which is cool. So not only is there a color there and there's pips here, but there's color next to all of this stuff. So you can see all of the stuff here is rare grade.
Exploration.
And it's pretty expensive. I don't remember what level the combat corpus was off the top of my head. So I don't remember like if this is like a level 15 or something, and that's why there's a big price jump. But also, this is an optional party member equipment, so that might play into things as well. But there is also the fact that the fashion gear system has been upgraded, which means you no longer need to have a piece of gear in your inventory in order to use its appearance on one of your characters, which is extremely, extremely exciting. First off, it's simpler, it's smoother. You don't need to sift through a massive inventory. And so like this is just Xenoblade 1 DE backported the fashion gear system from the original X into Xenoblade 1, adding improvements, and then those improvements are being reflected in X's definitive edition. But this now means money is going to be slightly less of an issue. Obviously, everything is farmable, especially in a game like this with stuff like the probe network, but specifically, you can now just sell all the gear you don't need. Obviously, there are going to be like 24 party members in this game, so you're going to need some gear going around, but anything that's outdated fully and no one's using, you can actually just sell and not hold around for appearance purposes, which means new gear being pricier isn't necessarily a big roadblock preventing you from getting things and going places.
The planet's
More cutscenes.
creatures
Like,
might not.
that's the end of the prologue, basically. That's, I think, Lau's affinity mission, if I remember correctly, where there's a blade just standing next to it. I don't remember if that's a guy from Lau's team or if this is from the Doug mission that you unlock about the same time. Either way, there's a relatively early affinity mission where you fight a big Viking. They're just showing Telethia off here, which is interesting. The thing about this is, without showing the name on screen anywhere, because one of the big things they did in an earlier X trailer was like actually fly around the Divine Roost, target Telethia, and you could see that its name was Telethia the Endbringer. So I don't know, because like it's a much busier and more complicated design than Telethia's in Xenoblade 1 were. So I'm not sure how many people who just played Xenoblade 1 will instantly recognize that this is supposed to be a Telethia and not just another big thing that has similar design things or design elements. But either way, I like the fact that they're just showing something this big off to begin with, because that means that there are many more secrets to come.
Take kindly to trespassers.
All right, and then we're just long swording and assault rifling. So we're going full samurai gunner. Yeah, fighting a young Grex. Can't believe Grex Xenoblade from Xenoblade is gonna get killed by Ryan Xenoblade from a different Xenoblade, featuring Elma Lynn and Arena from the same Xenoblade. Not really much else to say here that hasn't been said anywhere else. The battle commands menu is present. I don't even remember if I mentioned that in the last analysis, but yep, the battle commands, which are the most granular way to order around your AI party members in the series, which I was always a fan of. Not only can you like specify more specific things, like you could do target, you could do your own thing, you could do run away and all that stuff, but you can also do get in your skells, get out of your skells, focus on certain types of arts or that kind of thing. And in addition to just blanket ordering the entire party, you can actually order each individual character at a time, which is awesome and just very neat. We can see that the quick recast is officially labeled quick cooldown. It works exactly as we expected it did based on the previews. You just press the button and an art that's not on cooldown gets used, and it uses up some of the meter. There are kind of conflicting accounts on how it actually refills and whether or not it just charges to full at the beginning of the battle and you can only use that many uses of it, or if you can refill it during battle, or if it refills over time or something like that. But it is known as a fact that different arts, and presumably arts in different stages of cooldown, take different stuff out of the meter. And then also that, say, using offensive stats there, that you would still need 1000 TP to use even with quick cooldown. Also, we can see the appendage targeting thing, which is also very good, and the appendage HP thing, which is neat. I'm gonna be real. People complain about how this is bigger and gets in the way of stuff, but honestly, I wasn't aware the appendage HP meter in the original game was actually an appendage HP meter, so I think this is better.
In battle, you'll strike with normal attacks.
I mean, this is just straight regular Xenoblade X gameplay. We can see here, though, the status stagger is still called stagger in this game. It is the exact equivalent of break from the original Xenoblade, and then later used as is in Xenoblade 2, 3, and expansions. But it had a different icon, I believe, in the original X. In this case, it kept the stagger and break are both functional translations of what it was called in Japanese. They just chose to not use the exact same word in X's localization for whatever reason. So they're keeping the different name, but now the icon has been changed to be using the same break icon from the other games, which is just good for consistency across the series, even though it's not 100% necessary. And then again, you could see reactions appear on the left and use the same radial countdown that more recent Blade games, more recent main trilogy games did. And then the exclamation points from Xenoblade 1 DE are also here, except they're blue this time, because X is a very blue-colored game. Whoa, Assault Hammer inflicts topple. I can't believe the art that says inflicts topple inflicts topple. It's crazy. I guess it's kind of interesting. Break and topple are the same color here, which is different than how it was in Xenoblade 1 DE.
When allies call out
Does
to you
look
in the
like
heat of battle.
Yeah. First off, primer. People who know. Primer. Ghostwalker. True Stream Edge. Anyway, so like they're from the side, sliding slinger. They're on the side right now. So sliding slinger and side slash, which both have side bonuses, are lit up. But also, because Elma's calling for a melee soul voice, the melee art, Stream Edge, is also lit up.
Corresponding art that matches their call to support one.
I think it would be kind of neat if there was like a different color or a different shape exclamation point for conditional things like side attacks or toppling a broken or staggered enemy, and then soul voices were a different color, different indicator to let you know which was which. But hey, I will probably turn this feature off because that's how I preferred playing Xenoblade 1 DE, but it's cool that it's there.
One another.
Also, I don't remember Arya the Zauberfloat being level 13. I always thought she was like 14 or 15. No, level 13. Okay, so I thought they might have shuffled around the levels of some of these early tyrants just because they're a couple levels off from how I remember them, but I was probably just wrong for all of them. Like, Ludwig the Picky Eater, I could have sworn was level 27 and not 29, but I'm almost certainly wrong. Yeah, so, again, they haven't shuffled around levels at all, so this still leads me to believe that until you enter the new story content, you will still be capped at level 60 and only able to use gear up to level 60. So while there might be a few new things, like the Neil Nail gear, you're mostly going to be limited to what you had in the original game, which I'm completely fine with. top of my head. Like, I barely ever played Shield, so don't expect me to know for sure if any of these arts are new. I don't think they are. Using Napon Commerce Guild weapons in both cases is new. And then I can't believe I didn't consider this in the last video. The name of your weapon doesn't show up all the time and you can turn it off. It just shows up for a few seconds when you switch to that weapon and then goes away to save space. I might be stupid.
Conditions. You can engage.
And that's the Iron Meteor. Then we're overdriving at level 30, which makes decent sense. And we can see that full confirmation. Overdrive default duration is now 25 seconds. And in the last video, I also went on and on about how the colors of things in the overdrive meter are slightly off and how the rainbow doesn't show all the colors. And then I realized, like today, basically, if they're trying to make overdrive a little bit more comprehensible, maybe they just changed how that works too. So first off, we zoom in on this. That doesn't work that way. I'm smart. Anyway, if you zoom in on that, you can see that all 5 colors are actually present in the rainbow thing. So like you can see, it doesn't show up super well here on YouTube. Highest resolution, but it is visible if you zoom into the footage. More than that, actually, you know what I can do? Is there anything behind this? There's nothing behind this, so I can just do that. Awesome. There we go. Like if you go in here, it's a little hard to see, but you can see that, yeah, there is green to the right of the blue, and there is orange in between yellow and pink. So all of the colors are present on the rainbow option. And then I was thinking, wait, green into certain colors only is double overdrive count. In pink, only into certain colors is appendage damage up. What if they just simplified it and made it into any color just to make overdrive a little bit more comprehensible and easy to use? Because they've been doing that in several other ways. Yeah, I like... Oh, that's not right. There we go. I feel a little stupid that it took me that long to think about that, but it is what it is, I suppose. And anyway, yeah, you can close the overdrive guide once you have it down, which is helpful. And then we've also got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and a little bit segments of quick cooldown meter. Now, I remember it's called like energy cells or energy discs. They're a key item you get that increases the size of the meter. I don't remember for sure. I think you could like they're either from quests or survey rewards. Stuff like that. I don't remember what the limit was. But it's interesting that we got level 30 and then this is very, very full. Some of this might be just because it's dev footage, but it looks like there's only room for 12 segments, so I don't know. Maybe they got a bunch of segments because they're the developers, or because on this file you could level yourself down. I don't think there's any confirmation whether expert mode is or isn't in this game. But yeah, it's a lot of segments for level 30, I guess. Don't know where I was going with that.
Overdrive. Allowing you to dish out multiple arts in a row to deal massive damage.
Deal massive damage. This is Rising Blade Awards. Alright, now we can probably go through a little bit faster some of this, just because it's Skell things.
Once you obtain
These
a
are just
license,
cutscenes and shots recreated from old trailers in the original games.
Powerful armored
Skell's
vehicles
red.
developed by you can use
Wait,
Skell.
That's a red mech with an axe, isn't it? Ha 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 ha. I see what they did there.
Powerful armored vehicles developed by humanity.
Yep, they're just another indicator of a Skell with a flight module jumping and it just working like a regular jump. So I don't know if any previews are able to show off anything. I'm assuming the NDA was limited at like right before the Chapter 5 revelation, so maybe at Chapter 4 or something. So they can't really show off Skell stuff in the previews. Maybe they were allowed to verbally say specifically which is which, but I am assuming it is double tap jump to fly.
Pilot your
But I don't
skeleton
know if we
to
have
explore the
confirmation of that yet.
furthest reaches of Mira.
Whoa, Cauldron. Whoa, Divine Roost. Interesting they're showing Divine Roost without the Telethia there.
And
Whoa, Mira's pretty. Whoa, Scale Combat. We got level 50 stuff.
weapon.
These are all pre-existing arts, if I remember correctly. They might have changed the fist icon up a little bit, but the fist was definitely a thing in the original. Alright, then we got Putrid Falsaxum. Double Beam Edge. Whoa. Yes, I never... Like, I intuitively know that Falsaxums are insectoids, but I never really thought about it that way, I guess. And then... Alright, so you can see fuel just like gradually ticking down as they fight here. And then we can also see when the art itself is activated. Oh no, I actually gained fuel from something here. So
There are multiple types of skeleton.
let's try to look into that a little. 5992. Trying to see when they press double beam edge and when it might be cut in a way where you can't tell. Alright, so they're already at 5995 and double beam edge has already been activated, so I'm assuming they've already lost the 50 fuel from using the art. And then somewhere from something the scale meter pulses and the fuel goes back up by exactly 10? And that's probably an effect from the original game I'm not thinking about. I don't see any weather buffs anywhere, but maybe there's an augment or something where if you inflict a debuff, you gain a little bit of fuel or something like that. I'm just going to... Let me double check if gain fuel is a category of augment. And it's GP. Yeah, there's fuel efficiency up. And bind always refuels you. But this might be a skill. Can't tell what ground class they are, so it might also be a skill that I'm not thinking of. Doesn't really matter in the long run.
There are multiple types of...
Anyway, you got the hangar and the blade barracks. There's the Restfelg right there, outright confirming it's player controllable, as if the footage of it directly being controlled by the player wasn't enough.
And they can be customized to suit your
Interestingly,
there are multiple
Restfelg
types
itself
of
doesn't seem
scales.
particularly customized here, even though they're saying it can be
And they can be-
customized. This looks just like the render. So, I'm assuming you can at least customize the colors on it, because I think you can with the
Customized
Ares.
to suit your
They just chose
preferred
not to
combat
here.
style.
And then we got the exact same thing here. Hold on, I'm still thinking about the fuel thing. I have to look through like scale frame, scale armor, and scale weapon because they all have different augments. All right, so there's increased maximum fuel, there's reduced passive consumption, increased regeneration, bind stuff, then restores fuel when entering overdrive, which is not being done there. Yeah, weapons, last one. All right, so I might just not. It might be the like, I don't know. The only thing I can think of is a skill I don't remember, or it's like an augment that decreases the fuel consumption of the art, except it's formatted so that you pay the full amount and then get some of it back when it lands or something like that. Anyway, here's the scale weapon section. And then we got the Hresvelg being controlled. So interestingly, GD0930. So it continues the numbering, I believe. So the 0900 series is the 9th in development order. Double check. Yeah, so Formula is the 100 series, Urban's 200, Wells is 300, Lila's 400, Inferno is 500, Massima is 600, Amdusius is 700, and the construction models are 800, so the dozer and excavator ones. This is 900, which is interesting because even though it's an Ares looking thing, the Hresvelg seems to have been developed as a prototype after all that stuff. But here we've got, not only is it directly usable by yourself, but it's directly usable by multiple party members. Because there's Elma using a soul, or not necessarily using a soul voice, just saying something here. And she has her own Hresvelg out there. Actually, she's in overdrive. We do not pan over the overdrive icon anywhere here because there is enough GP to enter it. So we don't know what overdrive mode the Hresvelg will have, because that's a big deal. Your overdrive mode, the overdrive you have in Skell, is based on which Skell frame you're using, and those provide different bonuses that play into the statistical strengths that given frame has. So we can't see the Hresvelg one here yet. But what we can see is 8 brand new art icons, which suggests heavily that the Hresvelg is going to function like the Ares 70 and 90 did in the original game, and its equipment can't be changed, but it will have completely unique arts. That is obviously lent credence by the fact that Cross says Hunter's Blow here, when in most cases they would not directly state the name of a given Skell art because there are so many. They just either say a generic attack line or something related to what effect that art would have. But since they are directly calling it out here, I'm starting to think that, yup, this is going to be unique to the Hresvelg. But let's just take stock here. We got a new prototype white mech with blue on it. And its big deal is that it transforms into a jet plane while in the air. And now we can see that one of its arts involves transforming into the jet mode and just ramming the enemy. Does an absurd amount of damage and even inflicts topple. Plus, like, this is an absurd art, by the way. Gravity damage, topple, and total evasion. But just keep in mind that the damage type they chose for this is specifically gravity. It keeps getting funnier. Then here's the Hexad Partican. We are now level 50 Skells, just showing off that, yeah, you can get absurd things like super weapons. It's just there, takes off a quarter of Asana the Azure Star's HP, and it's like, even with level 30 skills, Asana the Azure Star is a pretty difficult fight. So, like, obviously this is level 50, but it's still, like, showing off how powerful that kind of thing is. They've just got to have some sort of arts gain fuel ability, because it happens here too. What we can see is, starting out, I'm not going to pixel count that. It looks like maybe it's a 22, 25k maximum fuel, and we're down all the way here. And the Skell fuel icon is yellow and noticeably emptier. So it looks like we're not going to have discrete bars showing the amount of Skell fuel remaining like in the original game, unless that's something you can turn on that's not shown here. But the icon will turn yellow when you're under half, and it'll probably turn red when under like 10 to 20% or something like that. So I think I would prefer the actual full bar, and there's even room for it here still, but I understand why they'd want to simplify things. All right, then we just got more side quest stuff.
Of New Los Angeles will see.
Hey, look, it's Ryan. Ryan Xenoblade, fan favorite character.
With various requests and errands.
This is just a side quest from the video game.
Lend a hand to earn rewards and strengthen your relationships with your fellow citizens.
Wow, can't believe the side quest from the original game is still in there.
Doing so may unlock new missions.
All right, here's Neil now.
Once again, would you lend me your strength?
Two kind of important things here. Number one, Elma's just kind of here, so she might be involved in a Neil Nail Affinity mission. Number two, Celica is here. So Neil now, they might have bumped up Celica's recruitment as well, because what is the technical level recruitment, a level requirement for getting Celica? Don't remember that off the top of my head either. You unlock her with New LA, which requires level 44. But the Neil Nail armor is level 30 and seems to have functional stats for level 30. So I'm guessing this is a new affinity mission about the Clurians themselves and not just a Neil Nail unlock things. I would assume Neil Nail can be gotten at around level 30, or I want to say, because she shows up with her special skills from the challenge mission from the original game in her cutscene, and you're also in Oblivia. I'm guessing that you will need the Skell license in order to unlock her, which tracks for her giving level 30 gear. Celica, then you can't get until level 44 and a couple more story chapters, but I think they are, by introducing Neil Nail earlier, reframing how Celica interacts with everybody, and her not being the only Clurian will meet her, and if you already have Neil Nail, I'll be like, whoa, so that's another Clurian, and then eventually they'll get an affinity mission together, because they are the only people from Clue we know of. Also, Neil Nail speaks with a British accent. Just from the one sentence, I can't tell if she is an actual UK-based VA, or just an American putting on the accent, or just an American who naturally has the accent or something like that. I don't know. Celica was the British person besides the Shulk and Fiora voices in the Wii U version, so it makes sense for the other Clurian to have that. This Clurians being British thing predates XDE by a very long time, so we cannot use them being British as an indicator of any connections to the main numbered Xenoblade games. Like, this doesn't indicate that Celica's from Bionis just because she's British. Like, again, first off, I was wrong. Her name is stylized as 2 words in Japanese, but they decided to leave it as 1 word in English, so my bad there. I've seen some people write it with capital N even this way, but it is just lowercase second n. Yeah, this is... First off, it's a voice scene, so this is just an affinity mission. And while we can't see the icons, we can even hear someone gaining affinity from that.
Or add new allies to the party.
And then...
Excellent.
Using HB as an example of a recruitable character. This is just a direct translation of the Japanese version of this trailer, which is funny because HB was a DLC character in the original Japanese version, and all of the localized versions included the 4 DLC characters on disc, just as a more or less a thank you for waiting so long, because it came out April, December, 8 months after the Japanese did, so they just gave us the DLC for free, which is a neat bonus. Interestingly,
Once again, would you lend me your strength?
I need to go back and listen to the narration, actually.
Once again.
Doing so may unlock new missions.
Once again, would you lend me your strength?
Okay, so they're not like just using that as an example of a new mission that you get from side quests, and then you can unlock them. They're not like Neil Nell is in the playable character section on the Japanese site now. She's definitely a playable character. This is just formatted in a way to show off different things.
Plus, you can hop
Anyway.
online to team.
Here is the new multiplayer menu. You could see here that you could vaguely see here that you can press minus to access related tips. That's what that says underneath that, which means that you're not too far away from necessary tutorialization wherever you go. So if something looks confusing, you can just press that button. Then we've got some new options. This quick assignment was basically just how squads worked in the original game, which is cool. So you just get dumped in with a bunch of people around your level, so you'll get squad tasks that you will actually be able to participate in. There is also a match with friends option that I want to say was also in the original, where you could select to get put in the same squad as one of your friends as soon as the slot opened up. But more importantly, we've got private squads now, so you can password protect them. And we can also even see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 characters here, which means you can set a 10-character password at the very least, so we're not going to run out of potential like pin codes for a squad if you want. Like I'm sure you can have it be 1, 2, 3, 4 if you want, but you could also just have it be Xenoblade if you want 8 characters. Maybe it won't let you only pick less than 8 characters. Or maybe it won't let you pick letters on it. I don't need to be talking about the mechanics of the private squad password. But anyway, this is good for if you just want to have a squad with your friends or stuff like that. Or for, I don't know, things like maybe a streamer playing the game and wanting to only squad up with viewers or that kind of thing. Very, very neat. Just, this is the good kind of setting I like to have. So you could genuinely just gather 32 people together under a squad with the same password without needing to all be friends or anything like that. And without the unreliability of maybe someone joining too late and not being able to get in just a regular play from friends squad. Then down there we have the 2 global nemesis are active, and you can see remaining attempts at Yggdrasil 0 are 10 and 9 at Telethia Plume, which is strange. In order to challenge one of the 2 global nemesis in the original game, you needed a blade medallion, I want to say it is, a special item that had to be farmed for, but could be fairly trivially farmed for indefinitely. So you could attempt the nemesis fight as many times as you would like while it stayed up. But here it looks like we're capped at most likely 10 attempts at each nemesis per uptime period. And that's it. That's the best you can do for RP farming and getting the rewards from that, which appears to be a change made so that 1 or 2 people, or groups of people with hyper optimized builds that can take millions and millions of RP off in one session don't just completely farm up attempts at the fights and kill the nemesis before other players get a chance to get any rewards for them whatsoever. So it's going to make RP farming slightly more difficult. However, if you're good, you could still take off millions and millions of RP if you'd like. You're just limited to 10 sessions of doing that per boss per uptime period, which I think is fair. I can't see you realistically needing more than that unless you're really greedy or want to like hyper optimize your run for leaderboard purposes or stuff like that. So I am generally a fan of this change. I like kind of soft limitations on things like this. It also prevents you from tunnel visioning and just spamming the nemesis fights forever and ever when you could be undertaking any of the amazing other pieces of content this game has to offer. That makes sense. Like, the nemesis fights are supposed to be a community gathering thing where everyone works together on this one thing for a small period of time. But if you just fight that for the entire period until it dies, then you're not playing the rest of the game multiplayer, and there's a bunch of other things you could do multiplayer. And it's like, I want to make a distinction between this and mobile games like artificially gating your progress with stamina, but I don't really know how to concisely put it into words, so I'm just going to move on.
Team up with other players near and
Here's this menu. It looks like this is now the Enforcer class icon always look like that. Okay, it did, I guess. That's strange. I like tend to play Mastermind. I don't know how I forgot what Enforcer looked like. Anyway. So, like, this is not part of the squad screen. This is the ability to hire other characters, and have them temporarily join your party. We can't tell from here how where the cost comes from. Like, I'm guessing you don't set your own cost, and it's based on level and some and maybe class rank and some gear score, and because 23,040 seems like a very, very arbitrary thing for Grant to like directly choose as something to charge players. But also, like, I love how, just for the purposes of the testing and gathering the footage for this, they just kind of slightly changed around a few specific characters, because like Luke, Joseph, and Steve all look very, very similar. They've got the same gear, same basic customization, just different hair color. And this is just a fantastic treasure trove of more blank Xenoblade. I've got Grant Xenoblade, Luke Xenoblade, Muhammad Xenoblade, Steve Xenoblade. Steve Xenoblade's really up there. Like that's almost up there with Ryan Xenoblade for me. Joseph Xenoblade, Michelle Xenoblade. Was that a Bible reference in a Xenoblade game? That's crazy. Evan Xenoblade, and then Ron Xenoblade. I think Ron Xenoblade might be the funnest to say. But Ryan Xenoblade, just the jump scare from that is the best part about it.
and far. Up to 32.
Also, yeah, it's got to be partly class based as well, because maybe it isn't. Like, the whole 15th level 17 rank 9 commando versus rank 5 blast fencer is an absurd difference. So it might be purely based on character level, because that's only a 2 level difference for like what, 640. Oh yeah, it's gotta no, because these are the same rank. Let's try to find. Yeah, it's got to just be based on level and then scale differently, however that goes, because 2 level gap here is 650. 2 level gap between Steve and Muhammad is 880. So I'm just assuming each level you go up, it costs more and more and more to go, and then that will eventually culminate with Grant at 23k for level 48. Because we look here, Joseph is a higher class rank than Muhammad is, and still costs significantly less. So I'm thinking, I don't remember how it worked in the original game. This entire section is probably pointless to anyone who does, because I never really made use of this feature. I just used AI party members or made my own character very busted or played in multiplayer for anything. So I didn't hire other characters much. I'll probably be doing that more in this game, just to run around with people on my friends list, because I've got a lot of people who want to play this game with me. But yeah, it seems to just be based on character level. And then squad tasks here. This works more or less exactly the same it did in the original game. And we now just have straight confirmation that the squad task was the S tab in the quest tracker, which is something I theorized from the beginning. Now, what's the red mission here? I don't know about that, because basic missions are blue and normal missions are green. Is this an affinity mission? And then this is story, and the purple is squad mission, which is different from squad tasks. That's my guess for now.
Players can join a squad.
And then we can also see, like, there's a Skell right there on the map. So this player has unlocked the Skell and is running away from it to try and gather collectibles or fight enemies or whatever. I think it's just to fight enemies because those are the only things on the squad task list. But not only is there a skip travel to the Skell thing, but we don't see the Skell fuel here. So yeah, that is something that can be turned off, just like in the original.
In which you'll work together to complete tasks such as collecting.
I forgot it got bigger. So I talked about all that while it was still small. Then we've got just examples of squad tasks. That's just, I don't know why they have Oblivia in Sylvalum and Noctilum in Oblivia, and then Primordia in Noctilum. Sure. But this is just showing off that you can be doing things asynchronously. Is this one of our first glimpses of Skell Overdrive in DE? I think it actually is, funnily enough. I will notice that they deliberately had the player in a Skell for both of these clips. So we don't know if these are just 3 clips taken on the same Ryan character, or if these are different characters at all.
Or felling specific enemies. Your individual contributions will count towards the squad's goals.
Alright, and then we've got online missions. Purple, so that made me think that the purple winging thing is for that. We got battle points, material tickets, all that usual stuff. Ryan is now level 54. These, I believe, are all things from the original game. So there's a very good chance there will be more, but they're not showing off anything new on that front yet, which makes perfect sense, and I don't mind at all.
Also, up to 4 squad members can team up and
all of this works exactly the same. We got some more characters. We got Andy Xenoblade, who looks suspiciously like Andy Undead Unluck. I'm not saying that was intentional, but it's really funny. We got Dylan, all right. And then, hey, whoa. This is our first Xenoblade game to directly include a reference to Sophia. Gnostic themes are going crazy in this house. This is definitely just because they chose more, like, just kind of mundane, normal names that any old person could have. Like all of the other characters they showed off before. It is really funny that they chose Sophia for one of them, though.
Online co-op to face off against powerful foes.
Right. There's Telethia Plume stuff. This time we are level 35 and level 30 skills. And then
Humanity is
before all that happens, I want to go back to the Hresvelg, just because I forgot to mention it before. Yeah, I mentioned the model number is 930. I mentioned the 9 part. I didn't mention the 30 part. That indicates this is a level 30 Skell, which goes with Neil now dropping level, or coming with level 30 gear. So, especially level 30 Skells do not get invalidated until you hit level 50. And even then, some level 30 ground gear is still useful well into the 40s. So there is a chance that you don't immediately get her at level 30 or have that as a requirement. It might be like a level 34 or level 35 mission, but point being, I think we'll be able to get Neil Nell earlier than we'll be able to get Celica, which is the weird part.
Select members. Only strength is to face off against powerful foes.
See him chew on this. Look at that.
Story stuff, I have literally nothing to say here. This is story information and line taken directly from the original game. Nothing looks different in any of these scenes besides the overall visuals.
Only strength holds meaning.
Our survival as a species.
Even though the Switch could handle it, I don't think they even increased the amount or position of blades in this scene. They're all generic people besides the party members up front.
Hinges on your efforts. Elma, we need your help. Please save us.
We threatened them. We didn't blow up their planet.
Our people don't have
Mandel. If we're getting Hresvelg, I think it would be neat to get, like, I'm hoping that we do get amiibo rewards that give us Skell frames based on things from the numbered Xenoblade games, but I also want enemy Skells as an option. The closest thing to that we get is just fighting the Prague Ares and then being able to unlock completed Ares, but like that barely counts because that was a Skell stolen from Blade in the first place. It would be neat to just like say there's a side quest where you can recover Almandel and then get that as an optional frame too. And after this, Lynn, this is honestly, this shot of Lynn is probably the best the new faces have looked so far. Like, that's genuinely really good, and either they put extra detail into making Lynn look more human than she did before, or the lighting in the scene is especially good. But I don't know. It's a good Lynn.
The universe of your disease once and for all.
Hello, hello. Will we learn about Reese more in this game, or will she just die again? I don't know. And we have another new character, who I will talk about later, but this is a very funny character. And I fully expect to be a fan. So obviously this is interesting that Elma's here. She might just be here because this is an affinity mission and the player chose Elma, but there is a same thing for her showing up the Neil Celica one, actually, now that I think of it. But yeah, this is a new party member in a new affinity mission in some way. And also, yeah, this is the Restfeld pilot after on next game.
The only agony.
We're just straight up showing Chapter 12 cutscenes in here.
Fight for humanity's survival in the
Alright.
Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition game. Available March 20th on the Nintendo Switch system. Pre-orders are available now on Nintendo eShop.
So you'll notice that there's like
Plus,
40 seconds left.
a brand new story.
Oh, we're gonna be here for another hour just about this stuff. Strangely, we've got 55% on Blade Tower, so this specific cutscene is not from the new story. Because we know as a fact now that the new story is post-game stuff.
Disappeared? What do you mean? What do we know about it? Let it all out. We earned a big tearful reunion.
Mira disappearing. The ghost's arrival. Even the Ares. The dots all join up. It's connected.
Elma, what did you mean by this, Elma? Elma, please explain better. Help. Anyway, we're gonna
Survival.
go back
The
to the beginning here.
Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition game. Available March 20th on the Nintendo Switch system. Pre-orders are available now on Nintendo eShop. Plus, a brand new story.
This is from the original game because the life hole is still ticking down. Then here, it seems like there are disturbances throughout Mira, and those are what the big orbs, black orbs sucking things in, look like. And we can see it looks like there's 5 right now, sort of one for every continent, but not really. There's one north of Kaltros, there's one in between Sylvalum and the Lifehold, which is now just on the map there because it's been located. There's one south of Oblivia, there's one west of Noxalum, and then there is this one, which you'll notice is right near the smaller leaning ring of Oblivia. And this is the exact, more or less, location where the scene of Elma and Lynn and Cross in Oblivia getting attacked by the ghosts take place. So it seems like these events are showing up places, capturing, or parts of Mira are vanishing. They're very close to the life holds. That's probably a bad thing. And then this is the scene where the lone hero or the Black Knight or whatever you want to call him unmasks too. I believe it's located somewhere around there in Noctilum, but it's been changed around appearance-wise in that scene specifically. So I'm guessing that as part of one of the first chapter of the new story, when we meet up with or maybe even recruit the lone hero guy, we'll be going to all 5 of these locations and then we'll go to the new region.
Disappeared.
So like here, this is just kind of the gang now. Lynn L, Cross, Elma, Arena, Gwyn, Doug. This is just the gang that goes to the Lifehold, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because it's 7 people plus an eighth if you bring a fourth party member who isn't one of these guys, or who isn't L, Arena, Gwendug. And then the three old guys, and also Tatsu's there. So these are the characters I kind of expected to actually have new voice lines in DE, because they're effectively the main characters of the story. We might get, I'm assuming we're going to get like new Eleonora lines and that sort of thing as well. But other than that, I don't know how much of certain other characters, like Lau's coming back to you. I don't know how much Celica in new story content we're going to see. She might only be speaking now in like the Neil Nal Affinity missions and that kind of thing.
What do you mean?
Why does Nagi look so distressed here? He's like almost offended that something else is happening.
What do we know about it?
So then there's this stuff. It's just like sucking up and voiding out a bit of Noctilum. I am going to wait until we get to the official Japanese website before I talk about this stuff, but I do not believe this is exactly an Annihilation event as depicted in Xenoblade 3. Also, you can see it's first off, though, in a way that kind of potentially contradicts what I'm saying. If you look at the enemies getting sucked up in here, is that the Fernando, the Milesaur from that part of Primordia or Noctilum getting sucked up? Anyway, it looks frozen, so it looks like the instant you touch the void, you're frozen in time.
Let it all out.
You didn't get to see the flower getting sucked in there. Is that a Mortiful or a Sacriful? I don't remember specifically. Either way, it looks like we're going to be present for this void appearing in Noctilum, the one on the west of Noctilum that was shown off earlier on the map. So I'm guessing this happens. The whole Noctilum scene happens before we see this, where they take note of where everything appears on the map. And then also, so these are pictures of all of them. That's got to be that one. That's that one. That's that one. That's that one. And that's that one. Again, the Noctilum and the Western Oblivia one are the only ones that we've really directly seen on screen. But there's the Western Oblivia one from in Primordia. I'm assuming. Well, we'll talk about it more when we get to the end of the story, or the other stuff. But I am assuming that this game, or this epilogue, is not going to end with humanity escaping Mira, even though Mira seems to be disappearing here. I think it's going to involve them figuring out the truth of Mira and all that stuff, and being able to leave maybe, but not actually leaving. And then the void stuff is going to be reversed, so you can go access those areas as you normally could. Because like, there's an actual bit of Noctilum missing, an actual bit of Oblivia missing. Like the rest of this is in the ocean where nothing really was. But they'll let you revert the world state to how it was before, purely for the purpose of being able to access those areas again. Either that, or like the voids are shown smaller here, like that's only part of the cliff on the outside of Noctilum, even though we see it sucking stuff up in the cutscene. Maybe you fight the ghosts that come out of it and it retreats a little bit and doesn't immediately suck stuff up, or whatever.
What do you mean? What do we know about?
Like, that's actually catching things in it. Oh, this is the Sylvam one, isn't it? Yeah. Those are Sylvam enemies and Sylvam rocks. So, where is that on the map? Yeah, so like, there's just nothing in Sylvam here. So unless that's something that opens up later, like as part of a things are getting even worse cutscene near the end, that could be this void extending all the way into this bit of Sylvam. Which suggests that we'll go there, we'll fight the ghosts off, and the voids will shrink a little bit, but the danger is, oh, they're going to get bigger again and suck up the entirety of Mira this time. So we have to go to the new area to try and stop that from happening.
Disappear? What do you mean? What do we know about it?
None of the voids on the map are shown on land.
We earned a big tearful reunion.
That sounds like a new voice actor to me. So I'm guessing that is the Black Knight Lone Hero, like saying, oh hey, I'm coming back. We can hang out again. And then if we go here, once again, second time in a row now, from the last few frames here, we can get a small glimpse at this guy's hair and skin color. And this confirms two things. One, it was not a trick of the light in the last trailer. He does in fact have silver hair, virtually identical to Mimia's Elma's. And 2, it was a trick of the light in the last trailer. He has human skin tone, not silver or that kind of color or gray, like we might have thought based on the trailer and how he appeared there. We can't really tell just from his ears, but he might also have a very similar, if not identical, skin tone to Elma, which, despite material from the original game implying he was human, might have just been, or like human who is fond of Japanese culture, or like actually a Japanese American guy. This might not still be true. That might have been part of the cover story. He might have been the exact same thing as Elma, and he's another alien from Elma's species who came with her at the same time, and that's why they were such good partners. They'd need to change a couple lines of dialogue in the ending to get around that, but that's a couple lines of dialogue that Elma would have, and obviously, like, we already heard other new Elma dialogue, so that's a completely, like, the characters who speak in that scene are all of the characters we see on screen here, and they're all going to have new voice lines anyway, so, yeah, not a problem. It could just be a human, could be Elma's old partner. Maybe the deal is that his alien body was actually destroyed on Earth or something like that, so he's just left with a Mim. But yeah, the fact that he has the same hair color and maybe the same skin color as Elma suggests that he is another one of Elma's people doing the same thing she did and not just a regular human, but he very well could have been. Then this is just an extended shot of the scene in Oblivia with that rift opening up and the ghosts coming around. Also, once again, I don't know if I mentioned it in the last trailer. This blade outpost did not exist in the original game, but maybe they just added more in DE. That's not a big deal. That's a very easy thing they could change.
The ghost's arrival.
Yeah, they're explicitly mentioning the ghosts by name, which is very surprising. And then we've got a better shot of the Ares coming in. And here we can see that one void. So, again, this seems to be the resting size of the void, and they get bigger when they're either consuming things or spitting out ghosts. But this is the size they are just normally, and that allows us to explore the areas of the world they were covering in the cutscenes or something like that. This is just an extended version of the same shot. We can see the not quite Mobius-looking cores on the ghosts here, and then the not quite Ouroboros-looking cores on the Ares here, which we'll talk more about that later. Then we're now in the new area. You've got a big king getting levitated and chucked at the big central area. Supplemental material also confirms that this is a set of floating islands. So I was wrong. We're not inside the Oblivia chasm, but we are floating in the sky, which leads me to believe that some of this stuff might have come down from orbit, which leads me to believe that, yes, my other initial prediction was correct. This structure is going to be the canon equivalent of the Rose Garden from the art book, which was a mysterious orbital structure around Mira that might have held some secrets about the planet or determined how certain things worked. And this goes hand in hand with, I believe, a Samarian flagship art for some of that, and the concept of Mira being made from multiple other pieces of other planets. So Mira is Ionios, or Mira is another form of another entry in the genre that is Ionios from Xenoblade 3 is looking very, very possible here now.
The dots all
Also, this sphere, the design on it, doesn't really resemble anything that I can think of from the series. Maybe at most it could be a Clurian thing again, or something from like the ancient dead civilization on Mira that made like the Z-DOMs and all of the mechanical things that the Ganglions somehow are like repurposed some of them, and some of them are just still active as enemies. But giant weapon, which does disintegrate into light, like this is a weird callback to Metalface throwing the spear at Zanza at Prison Island, because like this is sort of a Prison Island shaped thing too, for whatever that's worth. I doubt that's a connection. That's kind of funny. The idea of a giant spear getting thrown though, because that's like, I have no idea what could be using that spear, because that is so many times larger than just a regular scale weapon. But that leads into my hilarious crack theory about gotta get a good shot of NLA anywhere. That, because like, all right, X is probably the most grounded real robot style game in the entire Xenoblade series, or entire Xeno series, even not just Blade. But they could do one very cool thing, and that is at the climax of either X, X2, or XDE, go full super robot with it, and just have a gigantic skull that's made from as many pieces of the white whale they could find, that's like a kilometer tall, and grabs the actual blade tower by the hilt and uses it as a literal sword blade to cut something. That's what I kind of want to happen eventually. Obviously we don't see any hints of that happening here, but we do see a big spear, and that makes me think of that thing. That concept. That makes me kind of excited.
It's connected.
Also, Elma just saying it's all connected. She's talking about the things she mentioned. Mira, the ghosts, and the Ares, and whatever its secret ends up being. Yeah, that's connected to each other, because that's the tenet of this new part of the story. But is she talking about things being connected from a player point of view as well? Is she like teasing us, the player, about, haha, X was part of the story, the game, the show, the grand dealio blado blinga blaga blue of all of it? Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to get very unwell about potential connections in a minute. Then we've got another shot of the new area. And got some Siders, some Z-Doms, and whatever those guys are called, and an Oxerve. So the interesting thing about this is, again, like, I have a feeling this new area is connected to the old civilization on Mira. Just because it's high tech, it doesn't look quite like anything else. And besides these skells, everything here is not even biological, it's a mechanical weapon left behind by the old civilization. So we will see in a minute that the ganglion is still around. Like, it wasn't completely wiped out just because Luxar was defeated. It only was mostly there, and there are still remnants out there causing trouble. Which, like, it makes sense. That's kind of expected. But it looks like we're not going to be dealing with a lot of biological enemies, but we are going to be dealing with the ancient civilization. And here we're running around in here. Another big skell. A very interesting lighthouse looking thing here. It looks almost like Hyentia technology from Xenoblade 1, but not quite, so I doubt it's anything like that. So, bizarrely, is there no Tatsu
How much
here?
longer?
Nope, there's Tatsu. It's just Ryan, Xenoblade, Elma, and Lyn here. That makes sense. It's new story missions, so there were rumblings that you might be able to take Elma and Lyn out of your party for certain missions you weren't able to in the original game, but again, for the new story, you're probably going to be limited to these three for most of the time. But I'm guessing that there's not going to be FN sites in this new region. There's going to be these beacons or whatever as your main segment points. And then here we're flying around in the Skell. That's neat. It is very good that there is a new area in this game because, in my opinion, once you get the Skell flight module, the interestingness of exploration is substantially decreased. And that's not great because the instant you get all your tools, oh wait, it's less fun to explore the world, and that's kind of sad. But in this case, this is forcibly, like, you can only unlock this after beating the game, after beating what was in the original game, which means you have to have the Skell flight module to do any of this new story. So that's cool because that means, like, there were no areas really designed around having the flight module in the original, but this area in DE now is. And that's good because you'll be able to use the flight module, like use your traversal abilities to their full extent, and then also still feel like you're exploring places, which wasn't really true when you used the flight module to kind of mop up segments you didn't have in the original game, which, I don't know, it was always a little bit of a letdown, but it's good to have this here now. And with that, we are kicked to the Nintendo logo, and we now must go over here. I'm gonna look at the new story thing last. Dead. go back here. So this movie is one of the original trailers. Most of this stuff is old. Thankfully, they were very nice to us on the website here and just straight up said, okay, so there's additional story section and there's a Blade section, and this was updated on 226, and this is brand new now. So let us look at this. 8 missions. Also, yeah, if you didn't know, some of the division names are different. I wonder if they changed this back to Testament, because that's an important Xenosaga thing. But yeah, I like Avalanche to Harriers. I think they literally needed to do this because of Final Fantasy VII. And then, like, some of them are just kind of Englishy. Like, Pathfinder and Interceptor being condensed to one word makes sense, just because those are coherent English things. But Collapedian, first off, it's called Collectopedia in English. And then Curator just makes more sense. And Prospector instead of Land Bank makes sense. And just Arms. Outfitter makes more sense than that. And then just, again, Mediator to Companion. So a lot of these changes are just ones that make more sense and flow better in English. And don't change the real meaning. But, more importantly, here in this character section, we do have 2 new entries. We have all of the supplemental and like Alma and Tatsu, and then other story required members, all the optional members, and now we have new characters. First of which is Nail. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to Google Lens this. That's the fastest way to get a functional translation off of this, because I've tried. If you just raw translate to English, it kind of breaks like that. So I would rather just lens it and then read it out. Nail's bio says, a Clue alien archaeologist who studies alien civilizations. Has a very friendly personality and is known for an easygoing manner of speaking, has a strong sense of curiosity as an academic, and is fascinated by Earthling cultures and customs. Now, it is worth mentioning that about both of these new characters, Nintendo of America did tweet about them as well, so a lot of that is not new information. You can get this in English as well, but just because we're here on the Japanese site, so we might as well look at it here. I can get this picture on. Do it. That almost does it. A little smaller. That. Okay, so it turns out that the cropping there is raw in here, but here she's using a new communicator thing that we haven't really seen before. Also, it is neilphoto.png. And we can see that she is almost certainly a party member now because she is wearing Psycho launchers, which means that she's going to probably give us a couple new arts, or one new art maybe for that, which is neat. I like the idea that they are using these new party members to give us access to new arts on weapon types that we haven't seen already, or that might not have gotten enough love in the original game. Just like even out the amount of arts each weapon type has. People did find a new longsword art though, so I'm not sure about that. But depending on how many new party members they add, we'll figure that out when we get there. Anyway, though, there's also a quote here on the right side, and that says, Earthlings are hardworking. I need to follow his example. Now you might notice I did not machine translating Japanese into English. Pronouns are always going to get messed up, and sometimes even singular versus plural is going to get messed up. So when she says his there, she might be just saying the example of Earthlings and not any specific male person. And then also, I noticed how I didn't say any pronouns in the general bio, even though the English tweet about her relaying the same information confirmed that she's female. It all said he the entire time, so it's easy to just not use that and explain things later. So yeah, we'll now learned about Neil Nail's personality. She's an archaeologist who's studying Earthlings. I guess in the idea of, like, they specifically said archaeologist and not anthropologist or something else. So that implies that she's studying Earthlings through the lens of Earth being destroyed and all the culture they have left being what remains after the civilization died, which is kind of funny. But she's also just like naturally curious and interested in Earth and people like that, it seems. But so like she's the second Clarion we know, and it seems like she's a more educated, maybe higher class socially person than Celica, who's just, as far as we know, from some village in the woods, like did farming or something like that. So while the interactions they have will be interesting because of that stuff, what I'm actually most curious about isn't her interactions with Celica and bonding over being Clarion, but her interactions with Elle and bonding over just liking humans. Because Neil now is like a proper archaeologist who's like educated in archaeology and how to study civilizations and that kind of thing, and is going around gathering information, talking to surviving humans about how their culture was and how Earth was like. And then there's Elle, who is the only non-Earthling character in the game to be speaking the English language. Because, so like, again, I love mentioning this because it's really funny. Mira auto-translates everything. So when Tatsu talks to you and you hear him in English in the game, he is speaking the Napon language. All of the humans are speaking English. Presumably they're speaking English. Like, obviously, there is an Earth Federation, and it's Los Angeles. Even in new form, there are going to be plenty of people who don't just speak English there, but for argument's sake, with everyone communicating with each other, all the humans are speaking English. But Mira itself somehow auto-translates it. And that's true for, like, the Ganglion, the Prone. The Prone are hardly gang. Like, every alien race is speaking their native language. Mira is auto-translating it, so the humans hear it as English. The humans are all speaking English. Mira auto-translates it, so all of the aliens are hearing it in their own native language. This is true for everyone except Elle. Elle speaks funnily because he is actually speaking English, because one segment of the Lifehold containing the archives of the Library of Congress landed near him in Noctilum, and he became interested in humanity from that. So he started actually learning their language, which is why he speaks like a comedically exaggerated person who's learning English, and not just like properly translated English by the planet. Why Napon still sound like Napon when they're canonically being translated is a completely different story that is the topic of an entire other video. Regardless, though, I think that's going to be a funny dynamic. Just Elle and Neil now talking with each other and their approach to just studying humanity and learning about them. Also, you know my opinion on Tyrea. Obviously, I am a fan of New Scientist Woman. That shouldn't be a surprise either. But another interesting thing, though, is this new character. Japanese name is Rizeru, but I'm having a brain fart. Give me a second. Okay, guys, it's Liesel. Liesel is this character's official English name. And the bio here says, a test pilot belonging to the Arms Company, involved in the development plan for a new type of Skell, Hresvelg, was a former German Air Force pilot, and although having a somewhat rugged personality, has a very caring side towards friends. And the quote is, I'm confident when it comes to controlling Skells. I'm sure it'll be useful to Blade. So I think most likely this is the same line this character says in the other trailer over some of the Hresvelg stuff. So, effectively, I am a fan of Arena. I like Arena. She can stay around, but we're not talking about her right now. The official English post about this character did not use any pronouns, unlike Neil now, so I will refrain from doing that for now until we can learn for sure in the actual game. But Liesel is the pilot of the Hresvelg and a test pilot. Let me just double check to make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Okay, yeah, it is Liesel. or Liesel. I don't know how to pronounce German names. Also, I am stupid. In the Nintendo of America tweets about it, these exact quotes are included. So we can see that Liesel's quote in English is, "I happen to be a pretty competent pilot that might be a skill you're in the market for." So, yeah. The exact thing from the trailer. And then Neil Nails is, "Humans really are resilient. I have a lot to learn from you," which was not in any trailer. Anyway, though, the interesting thing is, the phrase arms company, that, okay, Liesel is a member of arms company. And not, first off, doesn't say Division of Blade. Like, everybody here joins Blade eventually. So, Liesel will do so, and even Neil Nail will. But it seems like the test pilot experience doesn't come from, like, being part of the Outfitters. So that's why we see Doug, an actual member of Blade, testing the flight module at the beginning of the game. And, like, who knows? Maybe that will be changed to Liesel in this version of the game. But I kind of doubt it. Also, what am I trying to think of? Words are failing me because we are an hour and 45 minutes of raw recording in. If I had a chat to bounce off of, this would be much easier, but I'm not about to, like, live stream an analysis and then record an analysis trying to put together a live stream. At least this way, I can get my thoughts in order. So Liesel, not Reina Sakuraba, and also not Emily, the daughter of the president. So this is a brand new character. That does not preclude either of those two characters from showing up elsewhere in the game, but I was wrong thinking that this could be one of them. Anyway, back to the phrase arms company. So in the Japanese text here, it just says Armuzu Kanpani. Like, that isn't a weird translation or anything. That isn't the English tweet getting something wrong. This character is from a company called Arms Company. Doesn't say arms manufacturer, doesn't say a specific one, even though we know as a fact that Hresvelg was likely developed by Granada Galactic Group and not Sakuraba like all the other human skells. Just, there is a new company we're learning about now called Arms Company. So this might just straight up be a new arms manufacturer in Definitive Edition that is maybe like some sort of collaboration between Sakuraba and Granada to make better skells or something. And it's listed, and like that's the company that you can get the Hresvelg and the Ares from, and then maybe like Liesel's outfit for characters, that kind of thing. I don't know. Either way, this is a brand new company. It's not any sort of translation weirdness or MTL mixing up. That is what the company is called. So let's go back to something else I was talking about before. We got a competent, self-confident test pilot from a weapons company, or at least a defense contractor, or something like that, who is introduced as the pilot of a skell that can transform into a jet plane and has a gravity-based attack, one that inflicts topple, which is a rare thing for skell arts to do. So one could even say, like, skell arts usually inflict bind, or like there's a lot of stagger on skell arts because you can bind out of stagger, but this one actually inflicts topple on a skell, so it's interesting to see what that like effect that might have. But so topple is associated with stagger, which is associated with bind. So you could say that this gravity-based attack is binding their souls with gravity, and also ramming in with the prow of a jet plane-shaped transforming mobile skell that is white and piloted by a test pilot who is feminine and confident and all that. I was memeing when I was making the Zeta Ares jokes in the last video. I think they just actually made the Zeta Ares, and here's Ru Luca to go with it. Like, I'm not complaining. Add Haman Karn next, and then I'll really be happy. But I picked a really, really funny time to become the Xeno content creator who actually watches Gundam and understands the references the series makes. I didn't think it would be paying off this soon, but here we are. So anyway, yeah, I don't really have much else to say about Lae'zel here that hasn't already been mentioned. Yeah, new character, cool character, addable to your party, grants you a new skill upon recruitment. Cannot determine any weapon type from here because that is a cockpit shot. This might even be no, it's not. It's not the cockpit shot from the other trailer because the mask was on there. It will be interesting to find out the. Oh yeah. Unique white colored pilot suit is another connection. Actually, wait. Am I stupid? Is Ruluka's pilot suit actually white or no? Okay, no. Her pilot suit is blue. Some of her casual outfits are white. I might be stupid there. Either way, still unique pilot suit. It's they did a double Zeta reference in your Xenoblade. That should be like okay. It is an original Zeta reference too because of the attack and the design of the Restfelg in general. But we did it. We got our obligatory double Zeta here. Can we expect a double? Maybe that's the skill that picks up Blade Tower. That's the Ares double Zeta. Size difference isn't quite that big, but whatever. I mean, also if like conduit stuff happens, then we're much more likely to have a proper super robot in here because like that is historically how things in Xeno have worked. There's a lot of just regular robots that work on a pretty grounded, just higher tech version of Earth tech, maybe with new energy sources thing, and it's very real robot inspired. And then anything that's connected to the conduit or Zohar just works like a super robot. But that is our second new party member. Everything else here is the same. Let us go back to the additional story section. Now, similar to the future connected section on the Japanese website for Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition, this is just a spoiler warning saying that this new content is after the ending of the original game, and you have to click an extra time to get through. There's another shot of the void consuming Noxalum. All right, so this still needs. Well, we're gonna go bottom up here actually. Keep the conversation interesting. This says, caption says, the stage is to a new continent, and then this should be fine if I just translate this. Okay, yeah, because it does show up here. Vanishing phenomenon, ghosts, and the remnants of growth. A floating continent appears in the sky above Mira along with new threats. Blade once again heads to an unknown continent to protect humanity from hardship. So this is a very, very generic blurb that's just like, hey, more bad things are happening. Also, it does confirm that floating continent appears in the sky. Maybe some of this was inspired by Monolith's work on Tears of the Kingdom, because that is basically what happens at the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom. And Tears of the Kingdom is like a sequel to Breath of the Wild too, which is weird to think about. Breath of the Wild is closer to the release of Xenoblade X than Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know. Maybe if the Breath of the Wild remaster for like first year Switch 2 rumor is real, Breath of the Wild will also be closer to the release of this version of Xenoblade X than Tears of the Kingdom as well, which would be really funny. But yeah, this is just kind of a generic story thing, but it does confirm that there are ganglion growth is the Japanese name of ganglion. There are ganglion remnants out there still causing trouble. This video clip is again from the same cutscene we keep seeing of the ghost attack in Oblivia. So there's nothing really interesting there. Talk about you in a minute. So the caption here says, nothingness of Ares. Or no, that's probably wrong. That is Return of Ares. That makes more sense. Thank you. Try to select this. Just when the main characters are on the verge of death, Dahl Skell suddenly descends from the sky. It was the aircraft of Ares, which defeated the attacking enemy and protected everyone just before Moby Dick, White Whale's arrival at Mira. Thought to be missing along with the pilot, he decides to join his team once again to face a new threat. Okay, so copy this. Go to go to G show. Let me check here. Okay, so it is just white whale. This is something I have screwed up many times in the past, where I have said that the Japanese name of the white whale ship is Moby Dick. That is, strictly speaking, not true. As you can see here, based on the kanji, it is just white whale. However, the different thing there is, these kanji are also used in the Japanese title of the novel Moby Dick. So, I mean, okay, like I might be wrong here. That's assuming. Yeah, so like this is not that I can't read hiragana yet, but this is hiragana, not katakana, so it does not say Moby Dick in Japanese, or transliterated in Japanese here. Either way, so the novel itself is named White Whale and not Moby Dick in Japanese. The ship is also named White Whale. When any machine translation picks up on this, it reads these two together and assumes it's referring to the novel and not the concept of a white whale, so it translates it as Moby Dick, the title of the novel. When realistically, they are just saying white whale, it just happens to also be the title of Moby Dick in that language. Anyway, though, so this is confirming exactly what we expected, though. Ghosts are going to attack in that Oblivious scene. Then the OG Ares is going to come out and save them. And we're going to get a reunion with Elma's old partner, who is the Black Knight lone hero guy who found Lao. We have not seen Lao anywhere except the beach scene yet, however. So I cannot really tell you if or when he will actually meet the other party members. There is even a theoretical possibility that we just get more Lao content as like a full playable side story, even detailing what he's up to while the rest of the party is dealing with this issue. Like, he runs into the Black Knight, they have their reunion, and then Lao, because of what he did, doesn't want to face the rest of the characters yet, and we don't fully reunite with him until like the end of the end. So like everyone noticed. We're gonna duplicate tab here. We're using techniques never previously unheard of. Because go to the blade section here. You can see that there. Okay, that's interesting. Here, there's only one slot that's open. And if we looked at like one of the previews, we could see the entire party list, and there were 22 slots, not including a player character, which was 4 more than the original game. So obviously Neil Nell and Liesel take up 2 of those slots. However, we don't know who the other 2 characters are. It can be presumed that one of them is the lone hero Black Knight Elma's partner, that guy. And then the other one might be Gajarg being promoted to playable, or another brand new character we haven't learned at all about yet. The thing about that is, we don't know if Lao comes back ever. Lao permanently leaves as a party member partway through the story, and while we do see him alive at the end, he's not, you can't get him back. You can get his gear back by talking to Doug after the story if you like equipped some things to him and want to get that back. It was more a big deal in the original game because of fashion gear purposes, but now you will guaranteed to have registered everything equipped to Lao just because of how fashion gear works in this version of the game. But that is kind of interesting. So like, if Lao never returns, then that opens up a 5th slot for another party member who can only join after he leaves. And presumably that spot would just be taken up by Elma's partner, just because those are the only completely mutually exclusive characters. Like, yeah, maybe you can unlock other characters like Mia. I think Lao has to have left to unlock. But yeah, you know, there are at least 4 new playable characters. There might be 5. And the weird thing about that is there is only one slot here. So we've got, if we assume that this slot is eventually filled, we will have 18 characters from this, 19 from Nagi, 21 from Lynn and Elma. So we are still missing one character at the very least, beyond the one who fills this slot. And that, to me, just based on the layout of the website, kind of heavily suggests that maybe... I actually don't know if the Rothians are anywhere on this site directly. And Mira. No. Battle. Just trailer stuff. It is trailer stuff. Okay. So, regardless, for the purposes of like spoiling that he becomes an ally in the first place, if Kajarik's playable, I could see why they wouldn't want to talk about him here. But yeah, like, regardless of what happens, even if this slot is filled, there's still one missing party member. So, at the very, like, we can assume Elma's partner becomes playable. I think that's a fair assumption to make. Even on top of that, there's at least one character we do not know the playability of, no matter what. It's very exciting. Maybe they'll let us unlock Mia earlier. That would be neat. Anyway, going back here. Let's just take a look at the picture of the Ares for a second. There we go. That's much bigger. 1160 or 860 by 1107. So we got Ares.png. And let's also look for Noah's Ouroboros form. You just take a good enough picture of it, probably. Thank you, random Reddit user. All right, yeah. So it is no secret that the Ares and the Ouroboros have very similar designs to each other. That is not something I ever intended to argue against. But you notice here, the cores on the Ares are not identical to cores on Ouroboros. Like, yeah, there's 5 of them, and I mean, this is very similar to the big Ouroboros from Future Team. So, like, I'm just using Noah's Ouroboros because I knew there'd be a very clear shot at the cores here. If you look at this, none of these cores are the same as that. They've got they got the shape, they've got the orange pulsing light, they've got the cross stuff there. But what they don't have is this little cross area in the middle. Like this little bit of circle. And they don't have like an actual... The Ouroboros cores look like a curled up snake. And I think that is an intentional thing based on like how the Ouroboros works. But so that's like, I don't think the Ares is literally an Ouroboros the same way Xenoblade 3 has. I think it's the same kind of power, like drawing from the consciousness of people being put together and that kind of thing. But it's not from the fusion of a matter and antimatter world like Hevis and Agnes has. It's just like a collective unconscious power, or people from different like races or planets in the same universe. So that's why this looks different. It doesn't have the same motifs and all that. Let's just look at another shot. Yes, we can use this. That core is much, much more ornate, and while there is a pattern of lines going across it, it's a very different pattern than the one present on the Ares here. So at least need to believe they're the same kind of power, but they're not the exact same power. Like, this could end up not directly connecting into the trilogy. Weirdly enough, this trailer, despite being a Xenoblade X trailer with potential connections to the trilogy, has made me even more set in stone that Xenosaga is happening as well. It's going to be kind of funny. But That's neat. Another thing worth mentioning is an outlet who I do not remember the name of, but because their footage is watermarked and I will be shouting them out when I use their footage in the the full video. Part of their preview, they did show, I mentioned this earlier, what am I saying? They did show the opening cutscene, and the opening cutscene is exactly the same, as in the Ares there, despite being this Skell, doesn't look like this. It does not have the cores, because the cores were not present in the original game. The cores were really only added to the ghosts in DE as well. So there might be something different about these ghosts and this Skell now. Like, is this some function of coming back out of these rifts or something? Because this guy shared the same fate as the ghosts. He was lost over Mira and didn't make it to the surface as far as we know. Like, based on the lyrics of In the Forest, if I remember correctly, is like he was drifting there in the universe or something like that. So what does that mean? He comes back and the ghosts make it to Mira at the same time, roughly. So it's possible that they had to travel through the imaginary domain to get there or something. Or maybe the ghosts were trying to work their way in and he followed them here to try and help humanity out or something like that. And because of traveling through another universe or whatever the void is or the imaginary domain, they gained greater power over the collective unconscious or something like that, and therefore got these cores. Now look here. Besides the color, the cores on the Ares and the cores on the ghosts are the same. Also look at a Mobius core. That should do. Already zoomed in. Awesome. Yeah, if you look at that, not only is the Mobius core a completely different color from the Ghost core, now that you look at it, but there's a Mobius symbol, there's these little inner bits, there's that circle, and again, the pattern on the outside, like the tire tread part of the core, is different than it is on the Ghost core. So, while... And then also, we can see, well, it is orange in the art, and it is orange here. When using this attack that you can see the Skell charging up with at the end, the core also turns dark purple, so virtually the same color as the Ghost core. And a little darker, but still the same color. And I believe that there's just something in that weapon there that's capable of defeating the ghosts and might be unique to this Skell or be hard to reproduce or something like that. Because going back to here, there is one shot that we didn't see before of, yeah, big purple lasers that are roughly the same color as the ghost lasers and the color the core turns into. Like, that giant laser thing is from that weapon that triggers the purple core. So, like, Ouroboros core colors don't really change in Xenoblade 3. But they do, on this Skell. Which leads me to believe that this is the same type of thing as Ouroboros, but isn't literally Ouroboros. My guess would be this Skell somehow ends up being powered by the souls of humans who died on Earth. Like, the people who didn't get their minds digitized or make it onto an Ark ship in any way. And that's some of the connection, something, the mysterious construction of the Ares. We don't know where it came from. Elma doesn't even seem to know, but it's connected to the secrets of Mira, and the secrets of Mira might involve some kind of Zohar equivalent, or just straight up connecting to the other universes. So, if the ghosts are already kind of Gnosis, and there'll be even more Gnosis in a minute, as you'll see. If Mira is located in like a different pocket dimension or something like that, or is just hard to get to, or it's like in the Encephalon or something like that, then it would make sense that you would have to go through the imaginary number domain, or whatever the Xenoblade equivalent of it is called, to get to there. And the thing about the imaginary number domain is while it overlaps the real number domain, it's not quite physically congruent with it. So it might be possible to pick up the consciousnesses of people who died on Earth just by traveling through it. So, like, might even be a good guys versus bad guys thing. Like, the good people of Earth bonded with the Ares, and the bad people of Earth bonded with the ghosts. Or maybe if someone was killed by the ghosts, they've got absorbed by the ghosts and were used to power them up. And everyone else is powering up the Ares, which is why it's able to fight, like, this kind of thing. It is also worth noting, though, in the opening cutscene, the Ares clashes with the Vita while it is being piloted by the Great One. The Vita we fight in X is at, I believe, 30% power, because Luxar has the blood of the Great One, but he is not the Great One. So he's not able to use it at its full capabilities. And that's still, like, obviously a hard boss fight that canonically takes, I'm assuming, 7 or 8 blades in Skells to defeat fully. The issue is, because of the customization, you can't see your Skells in the cutscene, but you need Skells to reach the Lifehold core. I would assume all of the party members, even the ones not in your active party that make it to the Lifehold, are piloting their own Skells to get there. So, yeah, that's 7 to 8 Skells fighting the Vita, and then I'm assuming canonically, like, Chimera Lao drains all of them, all their fuel, so the final battle is done on foot, mostly. But, yeah, so, like, 30% of the Vita took multiple Skells to deal with. Granted, you can't have the Ares at that point in time, but still, like, it's 8 level 60 Skells isn't anything to sniff at. But then you have this Ares, which was able to, like, genuinely defeat that version of the Vita, and we don't know what happens to the Great One. There's a good chance the Great One comes back in this as well, if this guy's coming back. So even before it gets the Ouroboros looking cores, this Skell is already, like, by far the most powerful Skell on the side of humanity, just period. So the cores might just be, like, maybe they just reused the old models and up-textured them, and they made brand new models for the ghosts in these new cutscenes. And that's the reason the cores are here. But the fact that they all gain the cores after coming to Mira suggests some sort of consciousness thing, and that's interesting to me. Anyway, though, segments, that just says ghost. I know that much. Just... No, like, they're explicitly mentioning the fact that the ghosts were some of the people fighting over Mira, and then they get here finally. Then, here's a funny part that has me... Like, we'll look at the text first. This section just says a new threat attacks Mira. Almost had it highlighted. Don't know why I'm having trouble here. Highlight if I, like, do that. Yeah, I'm just gonna lens this part. Shortly after the conclusion of the battle at the Lifehold core, mysterious disappearance phenomena occur all over Mira. It expands its domain as it swallows everything, leaving behind a void. Alright, man. Where not even light remains. To make matters worse, a new enemy called the Ghosts arrives from the void and attacks Blade and their friends. Okay. So, nothing we don't already know about. But the fact that there are these void portals that are showing up, they're consuming bits of Mira. It looks like they retreat after something is resolved. Also, like, we could see it growing and expanding there. And then the ghosts come out. And the ghosts might not... okay, we're just going to watch the rest of this clip because it's timed up well. Yeah, this is more of the cutscene. Then this thing releases a thing and, like, straight up dusts these blades. I believe that's not dust. I believe that's salt. And the thing about salt is that's not just a reference to the Bible. Because, like, it's a Xeno game. It's going to reference the Bible. That is a reference to the Bible that has been made already in a Xeno game. Specifically, the Xenosaga trilogy. And specifically with the enemies from the Xenosaga trilogy that the ghosts were always based on. The Gnosis. You know how I always love talking about the Gnosis and all that stuff? And how, like, oh, Mobius is the Xenoblade 3 equivalent of the Gnosis. oh, the fog beasts were the Xenoblade 1 equivalent of the Gnosis. Yeah. The ghosts were the Xenoblade X equivalent of the Gnosis from the beginning. They had corrupting powers, they could phase through matter, and they were really hard to hit and fight. So that makes sense. However, they didn't have the same powers as the Gnosis before. Here we can see a ghost, like, honestly, this seems like a buffed version of the Gnosis. They had to touch you for, like, a decently sustained period of time to turn you into salt in Saga. These guys can just release a wave that instantly salts people from a couple dozen feet away. So that's probably a bad thing, if I were to wager a guess. But the secret of the Gnosis is, I'm not going to spoil Saga here, but this has made me believe even more that Saga is getting remade next before anything else. Because, like, all right, yeah, if they connect X to the main trilogy or just set up an X2, you don't need Saga stuff for that. You really only need Saga stuff for Xenoblade 4 or whatever follows up on Future Redeemed, all the Saga references and the ending of that. They could make X games for as long as they wanted while waiting for the Saga remakes to come out. Just never mention that. Now they're just directly doing Xenosaga things in Xenoblade X. So, you know, that's interesting. We might just get, like, a Monolith new IP 2025 or 2026, then Saga 2027, and then a new Xenoblade after that, just because we need Saga. Now, for anything else after this in the Xenoblade series, on both the X front and the numbered front, assuming they don't connect them to each other as well, which is still possible, Xenosaga needs to happen now. But another thing people were saying is that the appearances of these voids resembles annihilation events from Xenoblade 3. Now, about that, Xenoblades 2 and 3 retcon some things about Xenoblade 1, and Xenoblade 3 even retcon some things about 2. This, despite being somewhat based on scrapped concepts from the original X, is brand new Xenoblade X content being made after 3. I am of the opinion that if they so desired to have literal annihilation events appear on Mira, they would make them look exactly like the annihilation events from Xenoblade 3, and they wouldn't do like these kind of half measures like this. So there's that. I don't think this is like, Mira, based on the concept art, was a patchwork world made out of chunks of different planets, presumably from the Xenoblade X universe, and including the Rothian's home planet, which was always a very interesting idea. There is a good chance that it's going to be revealed that this Mira in XDE is in fact using that same concept. The difference between Mira and Ionios is that Ionios was made of like two different universes, and those were two universes that were going to like have an intersection and annihilate each other. So if Mira is made from stuff from the same universe, annihilation events wouldn't occur. Also, these aren't the same color as annihilation events. Also, they leave the voids behind. And that's not how annihilation events work. They're like, these are recurring incidents. These look more like fog portals from Future Connected and Redeemed, just different shape and different color. And I think they're closer to that than they are to annihilation events. Like, this lends credence to the theory that Mira and Ionios are the same type of stand, but that doesn't, again, like, this Ares and the Ouroboros are the same type of stand, but unlike Star Platinum in the world, they aren't functionally identical. They use the same kind of power and come from the same realm of conceptualization. I think the same is true for Mira and Ionios. Like, Mira, I think, based on Professor B's side quests, that Mira is in some sort of temporal stasis. It's just a much more stable one than Ionios was, because it's not made from matter and antimatter. It's just made from one base universe. So that means that you would gate into it in a different way. So like, annihilation events shouldn't occur in Mira. And it's not that Mira is getting destroyed, it's that it's getting swallowed up. Like, they're not called annihilation events in the text here. It's called disappearance phenomena. So things are disappearing into the void. They're not getting destroyed, which I think is a very important detail and like clarification to be made. There's also, in some old Nintendo of America post, it showed that the new continent
Even the areas.
has some black fog in it.
The dots all join.
And
It's connected.
super visible anywhere in here? Not actually.
Again? How much longer
Alright,
do we gotta keep
so
fighting?
not visible here. I'm going to just find the other picture to confirm that's true. So I'm going to just get this out and move it to another window. Then we shall keep scrolling until we can find it. They've been posting a lot of Xenoblade. Here we go. Okay. This back over. Now, this might just be one of the voids forming, but there be the black fog. And again, like this stuff up here looks sort of like high Entia stuff, but I doubt that's the connection being made. And then here's the Manon ship. Now that we know, like, I thought, oh, they're taking the Manon ship there. That means it's in the Oblivia Chasm because the Manon ship was capable of existing in there before. But if it's in the sky, that makes sense to take the biggest thing they have because the White Whale's obviously not operational anymore. But yeah, here's Black Fog, just at the bottom of this new area, or at least below the Rose Garden. And we know from interviews about Future Redeemed that, excuse me, the Black Fog is not an indication of worlds merging. It's an indication of worlds encroaching on each other. And again, if this is just the outside X universe encroaching on Mira, there would not be annihilation events because they're made of the same type of matter exclusively. So I think these are a slightly redesigned fog portal as opposed to annihilation events. And I think that makes sense because like the fog portals, they were kind of sucking things up in Connected and Redeemed, not to this degree. And they also, at least the big rift in Connected, stayed around until the Fog King was destroyed. And like the Fog King was based on Gnosis, the ghosts are based on Gnosis. I don't know if these void things are abilities the ghosts have, or if they are something else connected to each other. But that's another thing. Like, I think it makes more sense for the voids to be like actual voids. Like, the thing is, they work like black holes, but they don't have gravity. They just trap everything, including light, but they don't pull anything in. They're just hovering there. 5 black holes the size of the ones we see would have sucked up an entire planet in no time. And obviously they've stabilized, and they're also not called black holes anywhere. So they're similar, but not quite the same. So the idea that they suck up even light is interesting because light is the only method of inter-universe communication in the Xeno series we know of, because that is how Melia and Nia talked to each other. Also, yeah, there's just straight up black fog there when these guys come out. So this is basically confirmation that there is another world being encroached on. And, like, that's the thing. The ghosts come from the base Xenoblade X universe. They don't come from another universe. So you can't really take this immediately as some sort of connection to another game's world. Like, they're clearly going a lot of places with this. But as far as we can tell, this just confirms that Mira is a pocket dimension, or something like Ionios. But in order for that to happen, nothing bad had to happen to the outside universe besides obviously Earth getting destroyed. So that's the interesting thing. Presumably you'll be allowed to still hang around in the world after the end of the game because of being able to play the game in a post-game state. Like, as far as we know, this new story is going to be a couple new story missions, which means it has been confirmed that it doesn't have its own separate space on the main menu, and that it does pick up right after the end of the story, but I am going to assume that you're not like locked into this post-game epilogue state where the world is drastically changed, and you will be able to revert Mira to how things were. So like, okay, maybe if Mira is a simulation or Ionios or something like that, everyone leaves the simulation at the end, but they keep it on their computer so they can return to it as necessary for training and stuff like that. That's almost how Elma's Xenoblade 2 cameo was justified, which is really funny. So that's an interesting to look at things. But another way to look at things is, all right, the ghosts, they came in from the outside universe. Like, Mira is connected to the outside X universe and can only be accessed from there, and all of the planets that make up parts of Mira are from other races in the X universe. Like, I love the idea that Mira is some sort of universal failsafe. It might have a Zohar of some sort controlling it, or it might be some mysterious force like a super civilization like the Klurians, the original Samarians, because they're a big Xenosaga reference, and they look like humans, but they're not humans. They came into the beginning of the universe on Xenosaga reminiscent ships, and they did their thing. They made the ganglion and all that stuff, but they probably didn't have anything to do with regular human evolution, because up until Elma showing up on Earth, humanity and just all life on Earth in X evolved the exact same way it did in our universe. Like, just history might have been slightly different. There are people born in the Xenoblade X universe currently in 2025 who do not exist in reality. Like Kentaro Nagi, Maurice Chosan, those characters should exist already in the present day. And they probably don't. But beyond that, generally the course of humanity leading up to Elma showing up, which, okay, technically happened last year, so we're already past the point of divergence. All of that stuff, that was the same. And if the Samarians were messing with it, that wouldn't happen. That's a common thing in every Xeno universe. In Xenogears, humanity was the same until the Zohar was discovered. In that game, it was canonically 2001. In Xenosaga, everything was the same in human history, besides like people existing who didn't in reality, until the Zohar was discovered, and that was at some point in the 21st century. In Numbered Xenoblade, everything was the same besides people like Klaus and Galea existing, up until the conduit was discovered, also in the early 21st century. So Samarians probably didn't meddle with Earth much on purpose, especially if they were literally humans. But again, I like the idea, the name Rose Garden, the idea of a patchwork planet being composed of pieces of planets that were destroyed. And that was like saving things, conserving things, and trying to preserve a record of races of X's universe that are no longer present. That has been my theory for Mira for a while. I don't think there's anything directly debunking it here, so that is very interesting. The thing about all that is, this might be a source for the solution to Lynn saying that Earth might not have been destroyed. Yeah, people have thought of it as being memory manipulation or simulation or some collective unconscious thing that meant that everyone misremembered the battle over Earth and the planet blowing up, and that somehow that's enough to reconcile the differences between X's depiction of Earth's loss and the Klaus incident. That doesn't really work. However, if Earth was actually destroyed, and Mira is some sort of automatic preservation thing grabbing sections of destroyed planets, there's probably a part of Earth somewhere on Mira that we haven't seen yet. That could be where we get New Tokyo. That could be where we get the French language communications or that kind of thing. Finding that segment of Earth elsewhere on Mira could still be set up for another X game, like X2, still set on Mira. So there's all that. There's the fact that there might be flesh and blood Earthlings preserved there if all that happened as well, which would be a very interesting thing. They might be able to use that DNA or the Lifehold core or something like that, combined with the powers of the Rose Garden, if it has a Zohar in it or something like that, to somehow reverse engineer giving everyone their flesh and blood bodies back. That would make sense. And then there's the idea that, all right, Mira is in like a subspace connected to the main X universe, but the rest of the Samar Federation is still out there and is probably coming for revenge after the ganglion's been destroyed. And the ghosts now know their way to Mira. Humanity, when it had the full force of Earth, was not able to deal with the ghosts at all. Humanity now, with just the one city, with so many less resources, well, they have new allies and stuff that's still not going to be enough. And without any way for Elma to contact her people, without any way to get reinforcements from Earth or from any other ARC ships that might have survived. All right, Mira's in the subspace connected to the other universe. How do we get away from the Ghost? Because they're just going to keep being a problem. What if we transfer Mira to the subspace of a different universe? Here's how we connect X to the trilogy. Like, X, basically since 2020, Tetsuya Takahashi confirmed that X exists in the same multiverse as the numbered games. And like Klaus said, okay, yeah, endless universes exist side by side, blah, 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 blah. From that, you could already kind of intuit that, spoilers for a video that's coming out eventually. I'm probably, it is up for paying customers right now. I am probably going to have to push it back to fit in the proper analysis of this trailer. It just kind of is what it is. Anyway, what if they just move Mira? So it now exists in the subspace of the numbered Xenoblade universe. That way, the only ghosts that can get there are the ones that were already on Mira. They get away from that. And if things get really bad, they can just load everyone up on the Manon ship or rebuild the White Whale. Just get all the good people of Mira. Do the life hold again, recording DNA from not only the creatures from Earth or the creatures from other planets, but the creatures indigenous to Mira. And just pop back out into the main universe. This is like, again, lore-wise, it is borderline impossible to connect X and Saga. It is, Earth incident-wise, borderline impossible to have X's Earth destruction and the trilogy's Earth destruction happen to the same Earth. It is pretty easy, though not completely trivial, in some sort of remaster or remake that changes a few things, to get Xenosaga and Xenoblade and the numbered trilogy to line up. But if we're already dealing with a multiverse and a conduit connecting things to the multiverse, you can just have the characters from X use the multiverse to get to where the other characters are. Like, that is a possibility. That is a very easy way to connect things. And it's also a way to connect X to the main universe while still having the X cast we know and love involved in it. If at the end of XDE, they make it out of Mira immediately and into another universe. Now, does that mean the White Whale returning to Earth is the blue light? No, I still think the blue light is Cosmos. But if Mira is shunted into existence in a subspace of the main universe, well, first off, maybe it's not shunted into a subspace of the main universe. Maybe they have to unpocket Dimension Mira and put it into a completely different universe entirely. And that ends up being the main universe. Well, firstly, Mira is not physically where Earth was. So it's not going to immediately pop out in the sky next to the reformed Earth at the end of Future Redeemed. Remember, my theory is they're trying to preserve all life on Mira and try to get to a place where they don't have to fight the ghosts. So, they're not gonna, like, they'll want to take the entire planet if possible. And if these voids are capable of swallowing up the entirety of Mira, then it's very possible that they can artificially construct a void that encompasses the entire planet, but instead of just bringing things into the void between worlds or completely subsuming it into the imaginary number domain or turning the entire planet into a giant ghost like the cathedral ship was a giant Gnosis in Saga, maybe they could just use it as a wormhole just to get elsewhere into another universe. If the entire planet Mira pops out, maybe even the entire Mira solar system, because we don't know how real Mira is, so we don't know how real the suns and moons are. It might just kind of be the planet and everything else is a projection or simulated sky. They'll deal with that when they get there. But it's not going to be where Earth is. And if they move the entire planet, they're not going to have a ship in space that will then fall down to Earth. But there will be a new planet to be reachable by Xenosaga's Galaxy Federation. And maybe the ship crew out exploring the universe at the end of Xenosaga 3 will stumble upon Mira. And the other thing is ghosts. The ghosts might be gone if they do this. But they would then still have to contend with regular Gnosis from the Xenosaga universe. And even if those work the same as ghosts, there might be some differences if they're from a different universe, from a different lower domain, that kind of thing. Who knows how that's going to work? Are they going to despair about that? Are they going to see the Gnosis? Are they going to see the Gnosis leaving? Because at the end of Saga 3, like this is a non-spoiler thing that happens. Like I already meant, like there's the Cosmos thing. There are people out trying to explore the universe. And the Gnosis are also specifically heading towards Earth. Like Earth was lost in the Saga universe. And humanity went across the stars, colonized space and all that. No aliens. That's the main thing. That's the reason Saga and Blade and X aren't directly compatible. Like, if Saga and X's universes were compatible, then I would have been team, like, everything is canon in the same universe from the beginning, like, as soon as Future Redeemed came out. But just because the contradictions between, and like, they just figure out the contradictions between Numbered Blade and X. However. But because of the aliens in X versus no aliens in Saga, I was like, okay, they're separate universes. They're connected somehow. They might touch on that later. They might not, but Saga's the one being connected. But they might be able to connect Saga more now if they just use the multiverse. I think that's the least lore-breaking way to do things. So, like, you then have the characters from X reacting to the Gnosis and realizing they're similar to ghosts and that they can't escape such issues just by running away. They'll have to learn to deal with it or fight. Then there's the fact that the Gnosis at the end of Xenosaga 3 are all trying to head to a specific location. And that wouldn't be Mira. So they'd see the Gnosis and they'd like see them running away instead of attacking, which is different to how they operated. And they'd be curious about that. So they might send more scouts out. And they might encounter humans from the Xenosaga side of things. Or so that's the thing. There's there is the Project Exodus from Future Redeemed, which does not seem to be the same kind of Project Exodus as the one from Xenoblade X. We know as a fact that in the main universe, there are humans going out colonizing the stars. And that there is a possibility that some of them may return to Earth eventually after certain things happen, and humans coming back to Earth conflicting with the life from the worlds of Xenoblade 1 and 2 on the new form Dionios back out on a proper planet. That could be a potential Xenoblade 4 plotline. But if we go with the hypothetical that those people who left Earth and colonized the stars are the formation of the Galaxy Federation from Xenosaga, and those guys are eventually trying to find Earth again, then you have those different civilizations encountering each other. And then you also have them, not only will they encounter alien Earthlings who formed and re-evolved in the time they'd been passed, away from Earth, there would also just be the guys from Xenoblade X. They'd find an entirely different humanity. Like, not just a humanity who re-evolved. Like, okay, they might be able to figure out how that worked because of core crystals being brain stuff being left there and the conduit being left there and vaguely knowing what Klaus was up to. They could understand why something looking like humans again evolved. But they'd also encounter people from Mira. And people from Mira would not only include extraterrestrials, not different life evolving on Earth, specifically people from different planets. And then also, humans from Earth that are in robot bodies. So that would be a big conflict between people who don't think Realians should have rights. And I would imagine human characters, after going through everything that happened in X, would frown very deeply upon anyone trying to, not give any sentient beings, like Realians or sentient androids, or that kind of thing, full human rights. Going all the way back to the whatever the conflict over the Saviorite Human Protection Bill was in Future Redeemed, which I'm guessing was something to do with an earlier, people with core crystals implanted in them, and that led to the designer children, and that's how Dmitry Yuriev is connected there. That's a major digression. As if I haven't been doing that for 2.5 hours already. We're almost done because my voice is almost dying, and tomorrow I'm going to have to start recording the actual video on this. So that's fun. Then where was I going with that? Brain, please. Brain, Brian Brain, even, as that is in fact my canonical first name. If you didn't know that, follow me on any social media or look at any of my old X content where that was also my name. That's not a surprise, but fun lucks and facts, I guess. But yeah, so you'd have. I feel like there's an interesting thing about Saga's galactic civilization meeting Mira, being like at least a somewhat unified coalition between people from different planets that aren't even all human and all that. And then like the idea that, okay, Gnosis kill a lot of people during Xenosaga. I don't want to elaborate more than that, but it's reasonable for the characters to want the universe to repopulate after the end of that game. So maybe the concept of X characters and Saga characters meeting and like actively searching for planets that most resemble the home worlds of all the refugees on Mira, and then like letting each race move to that planet and just like we'll actually establish a new Roth. Like we'll just, the Saga Galactic Federation will find a planet that's the most like how old Roth was, and if Kaldros is old Roth based on concept art, then they'd have Kaldros on Mira to look to as a reference, which is another neat thing. I'm sorry for hitting my microphone stand. It will probably happen again. Then they'd be able to find a planet, and then they'd be able to make a new Roth. And they're like, all right, yeah, we will help you get on your feet on a planet and trying to replicate what you had back home. Just be cool with us diplomatically wise, and we'll open trade, and all that will happen. I could see them doing something like that. Just find worlds that might not have been perfectly hospitable to humans, or like been hard to terraform into something that humans would thrive on, but would work good for like the Manon or the Rothians or the Prone or that kind of thing. Or we could just have multiple people from different original planets move in together. Like the Tree Clan and Cavern Clan Prone, they have to do with forests and caves. If Mira becomes inhospitable to Napon, the Napon could move in with them. Like they live in caves and trees, basically. I'm being very reductive here. And they might want to play around with all of this kind of thing just to avoid any unfortunate implications of things. But if they phrase it as just propping up people in a completely uninhabited planet that doesn't have sentient life, because only Earth initially had sentient life in the Saga universe, I think they could like do something like that. And then what did the humans from Mira do? Well, they have faster than light travel. So do the Manon. So does everybody except the Napon and L, really. So that's an interesting thing. And then what did they do from there? Well, they could use that to improve the technology. Like we do a technology trade between everyone from Mira and everyone from the Saga Federation. Get better ships, get everyone moving around quicker, and then eventually, if say like Klaus's experiment is the reason Earth was lost in the Saga universe, and then it came back at the end of Future Redeemed, or the end of Xenoblade 3 technically, and then eventually humans find that Earth. And what do the humans from Mira do? Like, obviously, if they're able to get back in flesh and blood bodies, I could see a lot of them just kind of moving to inhabited by human planets from Saga. Like just a bunch of, they could just probably move NLA to the ocean somewhere on 5th Jerusalem and just have everyone living there and just immediately reopen human stuff. And then between like the Manon ship still being there and stuff like all the xenoforms that moved in there, stuff like that could happen. And they could just like have the capital of the Federation be a trade hub across all that stuff. But the idea of not flesh and blood humans from Saga wanting to move back to Earth, but Miran humans wanting to move back to Earth is also really interesting. We are almost certainly, as long as any character we know is still alive or remembered, going to get any sort of conflict between the characters of X and the characters of the numbered games, because that's just not how those characters roll. They understand the value in accepting people different than yourself, because that is literally the theme of the series. We're all the same, even if from another world, one might even say. So that's not going to be a thing, but just the philosophical implications and those types of transhumanist conversations that can be had with that kind of thing happening. With humans left Earth, they were fundamentally changed by their experiences, and they're now coming back to their home, except it's not even the same version of Earth they left, and it too is unrecognizable from the planet they left behind. That is a very interesting philosophical thing. And just throwing Xenosaga and its penchant for being very philosophical and like that kind of thing on top of that is really interesting, because you'd have actual sentient humans from an old Earth in Mimizome bodies alongside Homs and Aurestian humans who look like humans but are fundamentally a different species because they re-evolved or were recreated. And then Napon are there for some reason. And then just like cat people, and then Cosmos shows up. So then you have an actual artificial life form who is like, you'd have like a spectrum of things. You'd have remade humans. You'd have original humans, but not in their original bodies. Then you'd have fully artificial life. And then on top of that, you'd have Realians, which are a different kind of deal. But I think J bodies, if that is ever explained, are somewhat close to like a preliminary invention of something like Realians. Again, I don't think they're going for a saga prequel with X in any possible way. However, it will be interesting to see Yelv meet Momo if that ever happens, because they're kind of the same kind of person. And then just regular flesh and blood humans coming back from other places to get back to Earth. I don't know what they're going to do there. I think all of these are very interesting concepts, and the thing about that is, I don't think this is going to be the game that explains how Napon exist, or what their deal is. I think we might still have to wait on that. And that too is exciting. But before I completely destroy my voice and become unable to start recording anything tomorrow, I think it's safe to end things here. I hope you enjoyed watching. Until next time, this is Luxon, signing off.